Okay, hello everyone. Wow, it's 10:11 again. Yeah. Uh, keep saying I don't want to start stream late, and this is exactly what I do. So yeah, it has been an interesting day today. Wondering how all of you in chat are doing, but I'll check in a couple times, I guess. But yeah, I guess for me today, I ended up like spending a lot of the day trying to do non-code stuff and just step away from my computer for a bit. And I've been trying to like add like platforms and stuff to my car, so I can actually camp in it. So it's a little weird because I have like it's a 20-something-year-old car that I'm turning into a camper or an off-road camper, um, and it didn't have a lot of aftermarket support. So there's a lot of like just me measuring stuff and then trying to get things cut, which yeah. I don't have a wood shop or anything, so I'm kind of at the whim of Lowe's or Home Depot. But yeah, chat. How are y'all doing? If you want to lurk, that's totally cool. If you want to pop in and say stuff, that's also cool. But yeah, drink wise, I'm doing 805. Oh, I forgot to update the title from last time. Whoops. Let's see. What are we doing today? Do we want to do some code or do Sunday is normally what I want to do art stuff on. But I don't know. I felt like earlier today when I was eating dinner, I was just like, I kind of want to do a little bit more code. So maybe I'll just do that instead today. Yeah. Well, I'm too lazy to go change the title, so whatever. Let's just do that. Yeah, let's see. Quick things before we actually get started. So if you want to try the app and stuff, and also maybe I should just move chat. I'll make a new overlay. I'll add that in my notes. For the just me scene. Oh wait, what am I doing? I have a blog. That's where I keep stream notes. That's exactly what this is for. Okay. And I'm gonna step away from looking at chat for a second. Let's make some new stream notes. Keyboard not working? My keyboard might not be working. Oh, here we go. And what is today? Today's the 22nd. Cool. So 2022, 05 to 22nd. Stream notes. Okay. Published then. I think something didn't save when I published the notes from the 19th. That's kind of weird. I'm having a lot of like random things happen with what's it called? WordPress lately. Yeah, okay, so let's see. For to do make a new scene, new overlay for just chatting, just chatting scene. Okay, cool. Great. Hey, oh, sorry, I didn't see. I'm sorry. Parp TV. Accidentally fell asleep for 3 hours. You're gonna be up late. Oh gosh. I hope everything's okay. Accidentally falling asleep for 3 hours is I don't think I've done that in a while, so I hope you're feeling okay. And then Craig, yeah, it is. I keep I keep swearing that I won't talk about keyboards, and then I talk about keyboards, but it's totally cool. So this is, I'll hold up both halves. This is a, oh man, I'm gonna drop everything. This is a reduced ergodox keyboard. Oh gosh, and I also gotta clean all this stuff out. So let's cover my face maybe, and it'll focus. Yeah. So this is a reduced ergodox keyboard. And basically it's called that because there is an ergodox keyboard, and this reduces the footprint a little bit, so it doesn't take as much space. It's fairly ergonomic. It doesn't have like a curved base, as you can tell. It's like really flat. But yeah, I really like a long time ago I actually got like a split regular keyboard, and I liked it a lot because like it curved my hands a little bit. And I wanted to get a split keyboard again. I got like a very light ergonomic one from Logitech for a little while when I was working at Best Buy and couldn't afford a nice keyboard. So I got that. It was fine, but you know, they don't make keyboards like they used to. So that keyboard, like, it didn't type as nicely, even though my old split keyboard was just a Microsoft one that also had like it was a membrane keyboard. It wasn't like a special mechanical keyboard, but the typing feeling was a lot better. But the Logitech one was like okay, but the thing that like really set it apart, I guess, that made me want to get an actual keyboard was, one, I wanted a mechanical one, and then this one actually has Cherry MX Browns, and two, when I was playing Halo and stuff, like, this is supposed to be like a more ergonomic setup, inspired by us being home all the time now. But I was trying to, like, you know, keep everything kind of close. But when I was playing games and stuff on the Logitech keyboard, because there's a full, like, had the number pad on the side, I find that I was moving my mouse like way out here in order to have the keyboard in the right spot. And it just wasn't that comfortable. And then like, I guess I prefer having like higher sensitivity in various games, so like I kept inadvertently moving the mouse back, and then I would keep hitting my own keyboard. So I was like, okay, let me try a real split one. And then when I play games, I can just like turn that off and move it to the side, and then like I can even reuse the wrist pad. And it's been pretty great. I like it a lot. So yeah. But yeah, Craig and Parp, thanks for commenting. The thing says like, oh, it's your first time chatting in here, so that's cool. But yeah, it's hey Leah, you're finally catching one. And then I'm actually pretty excited because like I was gonna do art, and now I decided to actually do some more Jupyter Notebook EDA. So we will actually do some code, and then depending on how late it goes, maybe I'll just switch into art. You almost streamed. Well, if you want to, I'm obviously not going to stop you. But yeah. Nick, oh my gosh, it's nice to see you again, Nick. I thought we haven't seen your streams in a long time. So I don't know, I've been missing you. The last time I had a non-ergo keyboard though was before, let me think. It depends. So yeah, Leah, finally. Finally, I feel like that's like the voice of reason. The pirate voice hasn't taken over yet. Let me see. I wonder if I can grab it. Hold on just a second. I'll be right back. Nick, I'll show you my other keyboard. Okay, so last time I had a non-ergo keyboard, I guess technically would be this one. Stupid smart cameras trying to track my face all the time. But yeah, this is a Razer Huntsman Mini, and it doesn't have the clicky, it has the linears. So the reason why I got this was because this keyboard, the reduced ergodox, this is not like a regular off-the-shelf keyboard. So yeah, Leah's been absolutely killing it. um, uh, this is not a regular off-the-shelf keyboard. So in order to get this, you can either download the PCB design, then get it fabricated, then do all the soldering and do everything by yourself, or you can hire this one dude who lives in Poland who will do everything for you. Um, but like, yeah, so I went with the hire the Polish guy, and there's some oddities with I guess how the wireless transmitter is working. So I had to send it back to get repaired, and it was gone for like I want to say 2 months because shipping takes so long, and like they spent 2 weeks just like testing it. Um, so like this hasn't been uh, the most reliable thing. And there's been like a whole saga with like trying to get this thing to work. And in hindsight, I probably would have just bought a regular uh, Ergodox keyboard or gotten the Iris. There's a new Iris one from Keeb.io. I'd get either one of those to be honest, just because the Ergodox one is like very obviously well supported or better supported because like they have a whole product pipeline, and like you buy an actual product, you don't like customize every single thing of it. But while that keyboard was gone, I got this like Huntsman Mini, and I just wanted like a 60% keyboard because of the same like the mouse hitting the thing, and like the other thing was I listened to a like people testing this keyboard, and they tested both the clicky and then the linear, the one I got, and I kind of wanted a mechanical ish. I think this is still mechanical. I wanted a mechanical keyboard that would like at least travel a little bit better. So this one, actually, you can probably hear is like not super loud as compared to. Let me turn this off. These Cherry MX Browns. So yeah, I figured if I traveled with this and I'm like typing in a hotel room, it's like not as annoying, and it's still better than using like a laptop keyboard. Which tangent, I bought this like crazy laptop. I bought the Gigabyte, I think it's Gigabyte, the Aero 16 to see if I could like use it on the road, and I like actually really hate that keyboard. It's really weird. It's like the keyboard area, the key area seems to be smaller than on my old XPS 13, so I'm like not entirely sure if I want to keep it. So yeah, I still have like a week and a half before the return period, so I'm kind of like I don't know about this one. But yeah, this one does not have arrow keys, which is a little weird. The Redox one does. So you have to do function and then like all the stuff. There is one keyboard, I think it's made by Asus, that even though it's a 60%, where the function key actually is like very nice to do arrow keys. You still have to hit the modifier, but it's frankly better than this one. This one makes your hand kind of take a weird shape. But yeah, let me see. When was the last time I had non-white keys? My Logitech keyboard, which I think is in my living room. That one is black. But I wanted to try getting white keys. We'll see. Luckily, as I've gotten older, I've decided to eat Cheetos and Doritos using chopsticks, so my hands aren't as like gross. But yeah, and then CM Griffin, welcome. Let me see. And bot got me from original message because he's the view word that bots love. What is the? Let me check to see what the bot said. Oh, I didn't. Oh, maybe I might have set the automod a little too aggressive. Just mod Leah. Yeah. Let's see. Also, when you ask like, is it a V60? Oh yeah, okay, that is definitely that is the one that I think I was supposed to. Someone suggested I remove that from the filter and just remove like filter out primes. Um, but yeah, it's been a while. Um, I think the most inappropriate, like now the bots I'm getting are like, I'm pretty sure some bot came in and just like all they do is like talk about people's physical appearances. Because this person, there's a bot that was like, I think talking about my body, and it was like, well, that's pretty weird. um, let's see. You like how chat is just degen line coders? um, I feel like that's always how it goes. I think. Let me think. What was I gonna show? Oh, right. So I've got part of the crew, part of the that is stream. That's why it didn't save. Wait, no. This is okay. Right. Okay. So if you haven't seen, let me see if I can just open it in an incognito mode so it doesn't log me in. Okay, so, oh, whoa, what on earth? Why did it show that? Okay, hold on a second. Interesting. That is totally not the right monitor. Automatic, what are you doing? There you go. Okay. Your interest is like 2 hours. Yeah. I get it. So this is my it's the graphics are pretty simple, and I think I need to figure out how to make the links and stuff look a little bit better. But I've been taking streaming notes and then putting them on my data science website. So it's BuenosDS.dev. And if you've never seen it, here you go. Right now, it has mostly stream notes. For me, I mostly did this because I kept taking notes on different things for like either what should I review for my interviews, or like what things do I want to try to learn in my spare time, either at work or just for fun. And I found that I was like taking a lot of notes and not really compiling them or using them because I would lose track of where the notes were. As you probably saw, like in the very beginning, I had like 3 sheets of paper, and I was like, okay, where are my stream notes? And then I remembered I now blog them, unless there's like private stuff that's supposed to be not put publicly. But if you go here, there's like a bunch of stuff that you can check out that I've found helpful. I try to vouch for all of these things, but there's definitely things I wanted to add because like after meeting a bunch of Twitch streamers, I'm like, oh, I don't have a lot of like Twitch streamers on here. So it was really just like Learn with Leon, and then like I met a bunch of you after that. But the things I'm trying to do also are this blog section, I have to fix that. For some reason, I don't see like the actual blog, like the blog roll. But I'm trying to be a little bit faster with taking the notes. The ideal case would be like either the next day or like same day, just like putting up the stuff. But it's like stuff that we talk about, even if chat derails me a little bit. You're a professional troll. I better see that in your Twitter bio later. Yeah, so I'll put up links in here. It's not pretty because like honestly, even getting it to this point where like the links are all clickable and work already takes like a lot of time. And then in previous ones, like on 5.16, where I tried to make it actually look a little bit nicer, like one, it wasn't supposed to overlap like this, and I spent a lot of time like trying to make the prettiness better, and then it just didn't work. So I was just like, all right, well, whatever. They're notes, they're just supposed to be organized enough so if they help me keep track of what we talked about, and if they also help other people, then I feel like that is all I can ask for right now. So yeah, so I should actually start taking there it is. Okay, so what do we do? Well, we did an intro. And then it's on the other monitor right now, so that's why you can't see anything. Did an intro. Derailed a little with keyboards, but that's cool. Demoed BuenosDS and the blog. And I need to add direct link to homepage for the blog roll. Yeah, Leah, thank you. Hopefully it is helpful. Like, really, that's all that matters. I know, like, when I was on the job search, I was like referencing to my my friend and former coworker about like, oh yeah, I was using like these things, and then eventually it was like, okay, I can keep sending you links in messages, but maybe it's just better if I just like put all these together. So that was like partly why like, oh, I should just publish this stuff somewhere. And also it helps me. Like I forget if I mentioned which stream I mentioned it in, but like I wanted to write something on like my my dev environment is actually you can see here. So on this window, I don't want to shake it too hard because then it'll maximize. This is Windows Terminal, and it is running. You can run PowerShell, but like I run Windows Subsystem for Linux, and I love this. This is so good. So it's Windows Subsystem for Linux, and I apologize if you heard this before, but like I'm like very pro this setup. But I have Oh My Z Shell installed, and then the Powerline 10,000 theme installed on it, and I really like just like it makes everything like nice for me. And when I was using when I was at Flatiron School for the boot camp, they gave us Loner Macs, which were really nice for dev. In my opinion, if you want to start coding stuff, or if you want like a dev computer and you don't want to think about it too much, and you don't need a GPU or something, then I think the MacBook Air, when it's on sale, is like the best price or best value, because like I think when it's on sale it's like 800 or 850, and you get like a decently built machine with a decent screen, with long battery life, and it's not too heavy. And like even my Dell XPS 13, like the battery life wasn't as long. However, if you want to do other stuff with your computer, like I almost immediately just knock out Macs, because I think they're just like crazy expensive and you're just like missing a bunch of stuff. So I really like Windows Subsystem because like I did not really enjoy working in PowerShell because like all the syntax changed. Like your shell is not the same as like Linux, and then most of the time if you're doing stuff in the cloud it's Linux based, so it was just like, oh, this is like pretty painful. And then I do miss Brew from Mac OS, but like I don't know, having this in here was like good enough in my opinion. And then the support keeps getting better and better, so like you can now use GPUs with this, so if you want to do things that are way more advanced, then you can actually use like if you're lucky you have like a 3090, and then use that to train your models. But yeah, so I wanted to write this is all a huge tangent. I wanted to write a blog on like how to set all this stuff up, and I kept taking little notes on post-it notes and stuff, and then I would lose all of them, or they would be buried in my like huge list of tabs, and I just wouldn't know which one was which. So yeah, I think like probably somewhat soon I'll write something on like, oh, how do you get this set up, especially since like in this bottom right here you can, well, it's clear, so it's all this on the right is the virtual environment, and I actually use Poetry, so I like Poetry a lot more than Pyenv or Conda, and I also use ASDF to install like multiple Python versions on my computer, and you may be wondering why multiple Python versions, and it's because not every version of Python gets like full-on support. So 3.6 has been largely deprecated. 3.8 is the current one with long-term support, but we're on 3.10 and 3.11 is coming out. So like there are things that I was using with PySpark that required 3.8, and I was doing stuff in 3.10. So it was like kind of a little bit of a nightmare, like swapping between different virtual environments. And I was just like, okay. At work, a contractor was telling me about how much he loved poetry, so I just like switched to that, and then I used ASDF to manage the Python versions. Yeah, he also really loved DBT, and I thought it was really cool, but I just like couldn't use it for anything, and I'm not sure if I will, but it does seem like a really, like, now it's like really hot. I heard podcasts talking about it. But yeah, so like this with Visual Studio Code has been really great. So I wanted to write something because, like, I know my brother was debating switching from Mac, and he didn't know, he like has never really used a PC. And I was like, well, okay, if this helps you, then like it might help other people. And it certainly would have helped me, because I've now tried to get this like dev environment working on like 3 computers, and every single time I lose the links. So I'm an idiot. But yeah, let's see. What was I gonna say? The stuff I wanted to show other than the blog was I should. It might also help if I put the link in chat in case you've never seen it. So did I put it in chat? Okay, well here you go. So I do not have a 3090. 3090 I think is still like $2,000, and my so I guess if you've never been here before, welcome. I'm a data scientist. I used to work for federal government. So I used to work for Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, but I left Medicare in there's 1749. Okay, I left May 6th was my last day. So I'm not working there anymore. I am starting at and I'm a full-time Twitch. No. I am starting at Niantic June 1st. So I have some time off, and that's why I've been like streaming more, and also like modifying my car to go off-road, because I just have time on my hands now. But yeah, when I was at federal government, we couldn't exactly, I don't know what you know about feds, but I would say that salary is not one of our strong things. So partly there are a lot of reasons why I left CMS. Although like I was one of the first 10 data scientists hired there, which is a unique opportunity, right? Like I definitely say that there are parts of it that were very cool. I was looking forward to the opportunity to try to like essentially the way I approached it was there's huge amounts of technical debt there, and a lot of like as you're saying, Craig, like pretty garbage infra. But the positive spin I had out of it was like, oh, we can skip a lot of bullshit that people have been doing for like 20 years and just start using really cool new shit. So like I was trying to roll out ML flow and data version control on our architecture, so that we can actually log experiments and stuff that we're running, and basically just like we don't have to do any of the things that people argued about in the past and now are regretting doing. We can just go straight to all that cool stuff, and it turns out that garbage infra was like a major reason why we couldn't do a bunch of that cool stuff. And then the way, as you probably saw at the DoD, the way tasks get assigned meant that I couldn't really do a bunch of the stuff by myself. And it started getting to the point where some of our subcontractors were asking me to write documentation and stuff for them so that they could do the jobs that we were paying them to do. And I was like, interesting. I'm not doing that. Because like, I don't think it's fair that you get paid 1.6, 1.7 times my salary, and then I literally do your job and then know that next year you will get paid again. So I started just like making a lot more stuff like internal, and then that also presented unique opportunities. And then one day, and I still need to add this to the data science resources, but one day I went here. And I was like, I kind of want to leave Medicare. Like, what do I gain by going to private industry? And it turns out like you gain a lot. So let's say just 3 years experience. Like I have a PhD. I don't count that as professional experience, but apparently a lot of people do. And like, I don't know, this is not a good offer, I would say. But like Facebook 224, Udemy is actually, that one's surprisingly low. Walmart, Gap is actually kind of about average. So, you know, and then like I went like that and I said sort from high to low, and it was like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. I need to go to private industry. Yeah, like I think technically, if I lived in San Francisco proper, I would be poverty level. If I had one dependent, I would be poverty level. So it was a little rough working for federal government. And with the way things were, I was like, I'm not sure if this is exactly a good place for me to be right now, at like more like the beginning of my career. So I just wanted to see what else I could do outside of that. So yeah. I'm going to Niantic. I will not be working on Pokemon Go, but I am excited to work on something I actually can't talk about. So yeah, what was it? Yeah, so that needs to be added. The blog is there, and then the things I wanted to show, and I guess, so this is working now. It wasn't working in the past. Oh wait, I still didn't put the link, did I? No, I did. Okay, cool. So this is working now. It had not been. It's still not perfect, but at least there's like stuff that people can try. This is the like natural language processing project I made for the capstone for my data science bootcamp. And basically what it does, I'll just do a quick demo again. We can pick, let's see, souvlaki. Because I had some skewered lamb at dinner today. So that's going to be Mediterranean. You pick a dish name that you're interested in, and then the cuisine style that it's from. It will use a Edamame API to grab 10 versions of the dish, and then take all those versions and then make like an aggregated recipe based on the ingredients. And then it does cosine similarity after natural language processing the words. Into a vector, and it compares that vector with all of the ones in a scraped database, and then returns back the 5 most similar based on cosine similarity. So there's actually both loaded faster and loaded slower than the other times I've showed this. So it says like, you know, the top 5 most similar are these dishes. So cornbread panzanella, what? Layered white beans, tuna, vegetable dip, grilled butterfly leg of lamb. That one sounds really good. Lentil salad. There's a lot of stuff that's not working ideally, and then every time I've run this, I'm like, there's things I want to fix. Like, I want to speed it up. Maybe that is a thing where we migrate away from Heroku, because this is free tier Heroku, and then even paid tier Heroku is extremely slow. And the other thing is when you click the links, it used to give you the dish, but now they're required to log in, which is obviously fine. It's Bon Appetit's recipes, but I don't have an account. So, you know, other people who don't have an account, then you can't make the dish anymore. So that's a little disappointing. And then I also want to improve the like vectors that are being generated. So there's a lot of stuff to like iterate on. I don't think it's R. They haven't said as much. The take-home assignments and stuff, I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say, because it was pretty common. Like, languages were like, you just kind of pick whichever one you want to go through. And like, I use Python, so I just picked Python. I use R too, but I'm just more comfortable with Python, especially like later doing more advanced things. Hey Jay, haven't seen you in a while. How is it going? Doing more advanced things, like I felt like Python is a little bit easier to do those things. Our users can roast me all they want, and that is totally cool. I am extremely jealous of R's ability to do statistics calculations, because Python's versions using like stats models are like pretty painful. But yeah. Yeah, so this works. If people want to give it a try, go ahead. I would say please be gentle, because there's a lot of free stuff on here, and that means that like it doesn't work if too many people hit it all at once. So edamame, I think it will error out if too many people use it within one time frame, within a certain time frame. So like that will be obvious, and then it is technically paying my S3 for data. So if we do more than like 1,500 or whatever transactions, then I start getting charged. But like I think the most I've ever gotten charged is like 25 cents. Please don't DDoS me. It was pretty funny. Oh, hi, Radar, too. Sorry, I saw the green, and I was like, I don't know why I saw green, your green name, and I thought it was somebody else. And I was like, oh, you've been chatting for a while. So, like, it was pretty funny at work to try to fix some of the architecture problems. I was doing, like, training the model. Like, one step was taking something like, on my local computer, initially it would take like 20 hours. So I tried to feed it to AWS and say like, well, you know, I'm giving you a 72 core cluster, so give me the results back in 5 minutes or something. And it would take 7 days, and I was like, that's not right. And I talked to the Amazon people, and they said like, well, we think it's because the SageMaker API, when you use Python to create a what's it called? A containerized, dang it. When you use the Python API in SageMaker to make a container and deploy it to ECS or EKS, it basically restricts it, so you only get one processor. So you get 2 cores, no matter what cluster you signed up for. And I was like, well, don't, like, snarky in me was like, okay, I understand from Amazon's perspective that works because like technically a cluster has spun up for the user, and it also works better because you're charging the user as if it's like you're booking the whole machine, even though you're only using like one processor. But like, don't you think you guys should fix that? Because like that, you're like, that's extremely expensive, right? Like I just called for a 72 core cluster with a GPU, and it's using it for 20 hours, but it's got like 0.00001% usage. I'm not sure why. Like, I don't know. They said like if you make the container if you make it as a Spark container, or if you use the Spark API to make the container, it will be unrestricted. But for some reason, it was just the SageMaker Python API. And I was like, okay, I don't really want to fix that because I have other stuff. And like our crappy workaround is I would do this one step on my laptop and then send it to AWS to do the other parts, where those are the parts that my laptop cannot do because it hard crashes my computer. So like there is at least some workaround, and then it's not totally necessary to fix this technical hurdle, because like the important parts of that project were actually not technically related, sort of. So yeah, it was weird. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So Amazon offered like, if you want to just try everything just by yourself, like if you want, we can give you a completely unrestricted AWS account that would be like uncharged, because like we were technically trying to resolve a major tech support bug. So we're totally willing to give you like unrestricted AWS access for like 72 hours or something. And I almost joked about like, oh, so can I spin up a bunch of stuff to mine crypto? And then I was like, even as a joke, that is bad as a government employee, so I will not say that. And later on, I said in a different meeting, and my manager was like, I'm 100% glad that you did not mention that to either someone on my level or someone working at Amazon, because they would just be pissed. Like, he was like, it's fine. I know you wouldn't actually do it, but like definitely he was like, I'm pretty sure if you said that to the Amazon support engineers, they'd be like, okay, we're never offering this again. Yeah. So the things I wanted to show, because I keep having the tabs open, if you are super curious about the things that Databricks is doing, and they're the company behind MLflow and also Databricks and Spark. I would try to check out this summit, and I'll put the link in here. So it's in about a month and a week. They usually have these like keynote speakers who talk about things that are happening in the industry. Last year, so I think 2 years in a row, they had the former chief data scientist under President Barack Obama. And they've also had like last year they had the I think Andrew Ng actually spoke last year too, but last year they had Nate Silver. I am aware that like some of these people, like I actually don't really like Nate Silver all that much because he's definitely got an attitude, and it comes across on Twitter, and I'm like, okay, man. We've already seen, like, looking back, we can see a lot of things where like 538 screwed up a bunch of stuff, even with their bread and butter with political predictions, where they were basically telling their employees that they were wrong and then overweighting some of their estimates to try to prove that Nate was right, and then he was wrong several times. And then that kind of all came out when people quit and they were like very disgruntled about working there. Hey, Rez. Yeah, so it is really weird. Like, I think that like they've definitely done cool stuff. And I feel like I have enjoyed 538 more when I'm reading statistics stuff that is very low stakes. So hearing about like the comparisons of the effect of luck on different results in sports, I thought that was pretty interesting, but also like, I don't know, like if that's wrong, does it really matter? Like showing that I think hockey was the luckiest sport, like does that really matter in someone's day-to-day life? Like probably not. And I love hockey, right? So like, I don't know, it is what it is. But yeah, like I've attended this like every year, I think, since 2020. And partly because like there is like a free tier, and you won't get the training and stuff if you can get someone to pay for the training. I did the paid training last year, and it's like very cool. It's definitely super cool. But like I felt like it was basically like you're paying for blocked out time to do a bunch of like practice notebooks and stuff, and then if you don't use them after, it kind of like you get all the notebooks and stuff back, and you can use them as references, but the if you're not using the techniques that they show, then it kind of is like, okay, well, what did you pay for? But I definitely think that like attending the free stuff is like pretty interesting. There's all kinds of like different talks. Like I saw people demonstrating like how they're using MLflow and how they're using like data version control and different approaches, and like basically it's just like a nerd conference for machine learning and data science people. So I think it's really cool, and it's hard to argue with free if you can make it. Let's see. Lucky isn't requires most luck. It was like I forget what the actual results were, but I think people were saying that like even the highest skill teams can just have like super bad games, and they can try everything they can and they'll just like lose. Oh, speaking, actually, hold on a second. Today was light. Oh my gosh, Florida is getting absolutely murdered. Sorry. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to, in case this spoils other people. Okay, cool. We're gonna go back to this. I have been like not having any Pacific time zone teams in the playoffs is like kind of brutal because I just keep forgetting about the games. I have never been to PyCon. I have wanted to. I saw one of my friends went this year, and I was super jealous. I think this year was in Salt Lake City, if I remember. So yeah, I don't know. I wanted to go. I would also like to go to, I think, Pie Cascades. But there's just like, I don't know. I haven't been able to go to any of these. My friend is also now trying to get me to go to SIGGRAPH, and I was like, okay, that starts after I start my new job. I do wonder if they talk about augmented reality and computer vision, if I can possibly make it a work trip. But yeah. was close to booking your tickets. Oh no. Um, the tickets I booked before COVID were BTS tickets. And I super wanted to go, not because I'm the biggest BTS fan, but because I wanted to see that experience of seeing BTS like live. And getting the tickets was an absolute nightmare. Like they, I signed up. They told me to make multiple accounts at different places to like really like get better chances at whatever. And then they eventually give me a link that said like log in on the site and then you can get your tickets. And they said like show up at this time. So I showed up and it was like, oh, you're in a 3-hour virtual wait list. And I was like, what? You told me to come in here like right at this time. And basically I waited and it gave me a map of so I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. It gave me a map of Levi Stadium and where all the seats were, and you could see in like real time seats disappearing. And like I was trying to get 4 tickets like all together, and like I think I tried 4 times, and I got pretty bad seats. They were like way up at the top, but I had looked at pictures of the stadium and I was like, okay, my friends and I are going for the ambiance, so like we want to sit in a place that like lets us really kind of appreciate the show that isn't floor seats. I talked to one of my friends who was like really into them, and she got floor seats and she was like, yeah, those are like $900. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm not doing that. But yeah, I forgot, mine were like, I think like $60 or something, so it was like really hard to argue like, oh, I just want to see this. Like part of why it was $900 was because like those floor seats are all booked like by scalpers like the second they're available, and then they get flipped, right? So like I think she had to get them through a reseller and they just jacked the price up like crazy. But yeah, I think it was 60 before all the like BS fees, and mostly fees, and then I think it became like 75 or something. So I was really looking forward to the show, and then COVID happened. They let me try to buy tickets to the LA show that just happened recently, like being like late last year or something. But then like none of my friends could make it anymore, and I was like, okay, well I don't want to go to BDS alone, like 6 hours away. So, but yeah, Craig. Get to go. Oh yeah, I sort of answered that one. Hopefully, maybe we'll see. I'm definitely going to try to ask, because like SIGGRAPH this year is in Vancouver, and Vancouver in late July, August. I think that's when SIGGRAPH is. Let's see. August. Vancouver in August sounds awesome. When this is like basically right when I started my boot camp in 2019, and Seattle was beautiful, and it was beautiful for like, actually it was beautiful for like 3 months. So I know the stereotypes about Seattle. I will say that it rained on my first day arriving, which was actually nice because California, we don't get that much rain. And then it definitely rained on my last day. But it didn't really rain. It rained a few times, but it was pretty funny that it was like, oh, first and last day, of course. Yeah, I'm totally, like, part of the reason why I want to go to SIGGRAPH is because my friend went before the pandemic, and they said the coolest thing was that when you're not working and like attending conferences, attending talks at the conference and like schmoozing, they have the exhibit hall, and they said like Epson always goes and they book out a huge area and all of their printers are there, and they have those big wide like roll plotter printers that can print like 5 feet wide, and the people working there are like, if you have a flash drive or you want to email us a picture or something, you can do that. You can open it up on these laptops that are hooked up to these printers, and you just print them and they're free. And my friend, like, I think they said they like, once their posters and stuff were done, they threw them out and then like put all of their prints in these tubes that they brought, and came home with like literally like, I looked into try to getting one of those printers if and when, my photo business takes off, like I would buy one of those for sure in a heartbeat. But they're like $9,000, right? So like that is like way off in the future. And then like every time you make a print, you're probably spending like $30 in ink. But yeah, I went to Seattle for work. It rained the day you arrived, and the sun came out. It was like, yeah. I felt like Seattle was like gloomy a lot, but I don't think it rained that much. The kind of photography I like to do, it's a mix, but usually I really love landscapes and street photography, but like street as in like candid scenery. So I don't really like the street photography where it's like people are isolating like essentially street portraiture, because I feel like a lot of those pictures that I've seen are mostly people with like long lenses and they just get a random picture of a stranger. So like that's cool. Sometimes those are beautiful, but uh, I try to actually talk to people sometimes because like you never know what kind of stuff they're going through, and what like cool life experiences they've had. So I don't really like the sure thing, Jay. I hope they have a nice day. But yeah, so like I like Candid Street, and then I like things that let me try to use people as like scale compositions in pictures. So let me see if I can actually actually before I forget, I rated Techie Girl, who's another Twitch streamer, and she seems super cool. She's been working on like this. The app that I saw was like basically making a like a period tracking app that was a lot more discreet, and there's a lot of stuff that just goes into this. Now she's working on a text to speech thing using Swift, I think. It's like entirely within macOS. So it seems like really cool, and yeah, I don't know. She usually streams like pretty late, so maybe she'll come on soon. But if you want to see like really cool non-Python stuff, because she said like I don't do any Python, like I don't know. I think that's like the plus and minus about the software and game dev category. And I know Nick has talked about this. It's like, well, data scientists like don't really fit in here, but like sometimes just like clicking around, it's like, oh, people do really cool shit in here. There was, I think, chat the other day mentioned someone, they were doing Unreal Engine, and I think I put it in the stream notes, but it was like using different algorithms to make graphics, and it was like, oh, that is actually really cool. But yeah, so there's that, and then let me see if I can load up like picture I would talk about. That's not the right button. Let's see. All my I was trying to help out my friends, so I don't want to show their resume or anything, as well as all the onboarding documents that Niantic gave me. Let's see. Pictures. Well, okay, so let's see. I think I have one that's... I kind of fixed this one already, I think. This is a picture that I took in Yosemite, and now I can share my monitor. There's a lot of things to fix in here. So I actually... Good suggestions I got from some of my friends were like, if you're trying to show people a scale, maybe just get rid of 1, 2, 3 these people, anyone else in the back, and then try to look for like random stray things, because like just having this one person was probably enough, but this was actually kind of very cool experience. So I should say that this is not fully real. I had to do quite a bit of like copy pasting, because like where we were in this valley, and where this meadow opened up, there's actually originally like a lot of big chunk of sky here, and it was very distracting. So I like basically just cloned in some more rock to make it look like the valley was covering everything. If you have a problem with that, that's totally cool. I understand. But like I felt like it was a much stronger image by like fixing that part of it. And like that was the feeling I got from being there. Was like in Yosemite, you're just like in this valley, everything else is like 7,000 feet or whatever above you. And then I just got unlucky that the only shot I had had an open section. But especially with this one, the way the sun is hitting, we, I wasn't driving, my dad was, and I looked out into this meadow. We had been like kind of snaking through like a wooded road, and all of a sudden this meadow opened up, and I saw the light hitting these trees, just here mostly. And I was just like, you need to stop the car. So he pulled over. I jumped out of the car, took out my camera. I took like these 5 pictures. Like I left it in burst mode because like I was using a fairly telephoto lens, and this was my big camera. This is a Pentax 645Z. So if you don't know that one, it's a medium format camera. It's digital, but the main thing that's hard is that because it has so many pixels and because it's so big and the mirror is so big, like there's a lot of vibration and mirror slap. So I was using the burst to try to make sure I had at least like one sharp picture, and I got this one, and then like the burst ended and I kind of looked at the like composition on the back of the screen like I'm not supposed to, and then like when I put the camera back up to my eye, the light was gone. So it was literally like I caught this for like a couple seconds, and then like there's in my camera roll, like in my I guess like Lightroom contact sheet, the next burst, all the like these are all gray essentially, so there's just nothing there. But for right now, this is like one of my favorite pictures, and this is from 2015 maybe, but I have a lot of pictures I need to go through. I think it's like 300,000 in my whole library. I had thought about fixing like making this not bright, like basically bringing the exposure of these bright other random trees into the same as the background, so it'd just be like, oh, you have this like one bright patch that's like very obviously different, so having the light there like helps highlight that it's even more different, and then this like one figure standing in the middle. Oh, and I guess also maybe I should Photoshop out these cars, but when I showed people, I think most people said like having these like random peaks is actually somewhat nice. And honestly, when I tried to make these a little bit darker, it didn't come out well, and I started like losing my mind. I'm not the best Photoshopper, so I was just like, okay, this is kind of driving me crazy. Like everything I do to try to fix these things like makes it look worse. And people were like, it probably just looks fine the way it is. You just have to like remove the stray humans. I think they're helping administer copium to me. But yeah, we'll see. Okay. I did say I wanted to do a code stream, so let's do a little bit. And yeah, radar. If you can get medium format, I totally recommend it. If you shoot digital, you can get the 645Z or 645D. Those are like, even 645Z new is maybe not worth it, but used they're like a really good deal. The only problem is that like you have to be aware that that system is basically dead. Like Pentax is kind of just doing what it's doing, but like the lenses are all older, so they're not the sharpest anymore. They're still really sharp. They're really good. They're just like maybe not at the potential of what that sensor can do. And also that 645Z, like that was cutting edge stuff in 2014. So there are still cameras being sold with that sensor, but it's just like if you're going for like absolute pixel quality, like even a new camera is like a regular 35mm full frame sensor is probably better. Oh, you're shooting film? Yeah, it's especially 120 film or 220. Like, I really want. This is still a camera digression, but one of my dream cameras that I want is a 617 format camera, and I saw someone like load one of those, and it was like, oh, okay, so you get 4 shots per roll of 120. And it's like really pushing it. If you load it in slightly wrong, you just like screwed up one composition. But yeah, Yeah, so if you shoot digital, you can try to get a used like a used 645D is probably like $1,000. Because like it's only 30 megapixel. It's from like 2012. It has a CCD sensor, so it's not very good, like above ISO 400. And it has like, I mean, the 645Z mine has like a pretty clunky menu system, but that's like speaking about it in 2022. I really like the Pentax menus, but like they feel a little bit dated. You the old box camera. That's really cool. Yeah. Niantic is hybrid. So officially it is 1 day in the office. But the teams get to decide which day it is. My first 2 days, I don't think it was required, but it was highly suggested that a report to headquarters. So for all the onboarding stuff. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. They're based in the Ferry Building in San Francisco. So it is like pretty cool. I think a couple people told me like the headquarters is like a very special place. And my home office will not be there because it's a little far. So I'm actually going to be like in the Sunnyvale location. But yeah, we'll see though. Like, it could be that if it's like only once a day, or sorry, once a week, then I could probably swing going to the headquarters instead. But yeah, I really don't know how many places are going to go fully remote. Like Medicare. So another reason why I was thinking of leaving Medicare was it's also pay related. They were going fully remote for people, and the problem was that like they based it off the lower of either your working location or your office location. And Medicare's headquarters is in Baltimore, which is actually like a really high cost of living area for what I think, because they're just like in the DC metro area. And two of my teammates were told very unceremoniously that they were going to get a 10K, like a 10% decrease in their pay just because they lived in lower cost of living areas, and it was like not up for negotiation. And it was like, okay, then like if you're taking a pay decrease to work the same job that you're not necessarily a huge fan of, then that kind of to me would be like, I think you should leave, right? Because like it starts being like when I showed on levels before, like government employees working data science are getting paid like a third of what our market value is. So it's just like, or less, right? So like it's pretty bad. So yeah, yeah, it was like for other people it's probably fine, but for people who like, if you're tech adjacent, then like there's no reason to stay because like we're already getting paid like way less than market value. Like I thought it was going to be a lot closer, and it definitely was not. And like, I don't know, the long-term career prospects were not things that, like, I kind of looked at like what my upcoming year was, and I was like, I don't want to do any of this. It doesn't seem interesting, and it's not even really data science. So that was, yeah. But I mean, I appreciate that they hired me, and then we gave each other a chance for like 16 months. I was not there for very long. There's a actually I think I've talked about this. Part of another significant reason why I left was let me put up the code too. Another significant reason why I left was that I was definitely given, we were not working in teams as data scientists. We're like split all over the place, and the org that I got attached to was the polite way I would say it would be hesitant to change. So yeah, there's like, I was told, you know, we hired you to come in and like modernize our systems and see what we're doing now, and how we could maybe automate a bunch of stuff and make things just better so we could work faster. And I do remember like, okay, well, I've been assigned to this team for a few months, and I see that it's like 10 people, and every week we spend about 8 hours, so 80 people, like 80 labor hours doing something. And I think I can literally write a script to do this, and it would take about 15 minutes, and I would just dedicate a couple weeks to make sure it like works before I deploy it. And I wrote the script. It mostly worked. The only requirement was that the way it was executed was that someone essentially opened a Jupyter notebook like this, and then did Shift Enter or like run all cells, and then it would do everything. So that was the only thing that was stopping it from being like fully automated. And I was like, okay, I can work on making this an actual executable, but I want to see if this is what people want. So I demonstrated it to this working group, and the way I introduced it was, you guys asked me to see if there's a way I can automate some of our process so we can speed things up and kind of work smarter, not harder. And they're like, yeah, can you show us what you did? And they're really excited. And then I demonstrated the script and like live ran the code for them. And I was like, yeah, so you can see like it does the entire like extract, transform, load from the weekly CSV, which is something that eventually we have to fix because like we should be getting a database. It does that, and then it exports sub lists that we can send to our contractors so that we have basically assigned work, and then we give them reasons why they're contacting some of these organizations, and what the follow-ups and stuff are, so that like they don't even have to think about it. Like some of these places are basically places that haven't reported data to us for like 2 weeks, and like we didn't have a way to single that out before, so like I just wrote this, and makes everything a lot easier for us. And then once I finished giving the demo, I looked at my Zoom meeting, and there was a lot of, I would say the reaction was, oh shit, I'm going to get fired. And like, that's really not the purpose of that script, right? Like we had people with clinical experience who were just like going through an Excel sheet. And I was like, your brain should not be used to manually execute Excel. So help us figure out what we can do in terms of interpreting the data, but don't do the manual like encoding of the Excel sheet, because that is not a good use of your time. That was what I was saying to them. And it didn't seem like they wanted that, because I demonstrated this and then I was told we don't want this at all. And then 2 days later I got reassigned to a new group. And I think like one of the things I mentioned in a different stream was a manager, actually, honestly, the person who hired me. I challenged him a little bit because his like darling group kept talking about stuff and how well they were doing, and I challenged them a little, saying like, well, there's things here that like you've listed as accomplishments, but I don't think they're actually accomplishments because we don't know what the results of these projects are. And I had been mentioning this stuff quietly, and then it kept getting not discussed or talked about, so I felt very ignored. So at this meeting I spoke up and said like, well, one of these things that you're mentioning as an accomplishment, last time I checked, that thing had like less than 1% usage, so has that been fixed? And then the people who came up with that solution didn't say anything, and I was like, I think it's a little bad that you don't know the metrics on the thing that cost you 4 sprints, so 8 weeks of work, and several, maybe tens of thousands of dollars, because a contractor was paid to do that. So I'm going to ask you again, because apparently no one else has. Do you know the metrics of usage for this? Because someone should be asking you that, and it's a little troubling that nobody has. And they couldn't answer me. And I was like, hey, like, if you don't know, you can just tell me you don't know. But also, like, these are the things you have to keep in mind, because like we burned tens of thousands of dollars on that, and you're not even using it. This manager then told me like, you are hostile and we're thinking of sending you to harassment training. I was like, interesting. The first time I speak up at a meeting, and it's because I didn't agree with you. You're threatening to send me to harassment training. So, hey. It did feel a little good to tell him, like, I'm leaving. Yeah. So, all right. Last time, in terms of code, fun code, and we've got the virtual environment running. So this is based off of a exploratory data. Yeah, it was definitely interesting. And then Also interesting was like a lot of that stuff was happening somewhat publicly, and I was more than willing to talk about it to my teammates. And it started leading down the path of like a lot of my a lot of my coworkers with like data scientists as their actual title or description were like, oh, I don't know if I really like it here that much. So um, yeah. Uh, let's see. So last time, these should all actually. Why don't we just we'll restart this, um, and I should change that because sometimes it's unlikely, but it could be possible that I accidentally hit run that command and don't mean to. Um, but yeah, so if you weren't here last time, basically this notebook I've got is based off a template, and there's like a bunch of things in here that I populate beforehand. I should have the template available. And you just like put in stuff that you're doing, and then basically work through it as you go. So all this stuff is like already spelled out, ready to be replaced with other stuff, but like change the title, change the purpose of this notebook, importing necessary libraries. So a bunch of this stuff is commented out because like I don't need it right now, especially for the exploratory data analysis. So just take in those. Not going to use these helper functions for right now. This is actually for, I should just comment this out. This is actually for a work NLP project or former work NLP project. Running these as global variables, this data path, which is like, last time I talked about the Google style sheet, style guide for Python. And like, I think they actually tell you like, you really shouldn't be doing these global variables. And I probably agree. But this is something that like execute once. It's got maybe a not very unique name, but I'm making sure not to use that name again. Also forgot to mention for today's stream, this is what I'm drinking, although not very frequently, as you can imagine. I'm going to take a sip actually. And it was like perfect product placement, and I totally didn't mean that. It would be nice if Firestone Walker sponsored me, but they do not. If you've never had 805, it is a California beer. It is very easy drinking. So the things we're doing now, it is a JSON file, the actual data. So this Epicurus recipe. So we're loading with the pandas read JSON, and then just displaying the first 5 records. There's like, last time I realized I hadn't looked at this in a long time because I'd done the EDA and then processed it and then made a natural, like a count vectorized version of this. And I just completely forgot what the data looked like. So there are things that are like really basic checks, like what is type, and why is there, like, I thought this is like, first of all, I thought I scraped this myself, and I forgot that I didn't like this data, so then I did a new scrape, and then this is the data that I did not scrape. Excuse me, hold on a second. Yeah, so this like type, I'm not sure why it's in here. I was trying to see like what are the different entries in the type category, because if they're not all recipes, then like I don't know why it's in here. Turns out they're all recipes, so this whole column we can drop it, because like 34,756, that's exactly how many records there are, so having this in here doesn't tell us anything. Maybe in some other, if I scrape it again, like I don't even think I ran into anything that wasn't a recipe when I did the scraper, but I'll have to check it. I know on some sites, when I scraped food.com, they have recipes, but they also have recipe aggregations. So if you, for food.com, I had to use Selenium to do the scraping, because food.com loads all of its recipes in an infinite scroll. So you'd have to like use Selenium and the Chromium driver to pretend to be someone that was like scrolling through until you hit like the end, which is not specified. Every time you loaded like another 9, there was like an interstitial one. Maybe it wasn't food.com. There's some other site. It would load an interstitial recipe that was basically just like a here's what's hot today, or here's what's hot in the category that you search for. So like for that, I would scrape it and then based off the tag, just throw it out, because like it just broke basically. Like it would I would say, you know, if it's a recipe, go get me the ingredients in the hyperlink and then the picture. But if it was an aggregate recipe or like an aggregate of things, it wouldn't have any of those. So like it would just throw me errors and my scraper would stop. So I was like, okay, well, the real dumb thing is just say if it's not that type, then just skip it and then we'll just move on. And then that worked in the other scraper. So yeah. Yeah, so last time also did this like very basic description with this pandas function describe. And the reason why we did that was because it wasn't clear which of these were going to be numerical and which of these were going to be strings. So like sometimes like this aggregate rating and review count, like logically it looks like it is going to be a numerical value, but sometimes like depending on how we just get unlucky, maybe there's like a null or something inside one of these categories. If that happens, then like it could just start interpreting things as mixed type or strings, and then we have to fix it. So I was just like, okay, well, describe I know only works with numerical, so like just give me this and then that will just tell me which columns are essentially all numerical. And then of course the surprise last time was the date crawled. I looked and was like, all right, these are Unix timestamps. So this whole gobbledygook is technically an integer. So like that got interpreted as that. We'll have to make something that basically converts like to date time and from type, I don't know, Unix type, just assume it's like UTC time. Same with this publication date. Like this got interpreted as a string, but I think if we did some regex, we could drop anything from T to Z. And then we can just convert that into regular date time object. And wanted to do some other investigation of which types are types. And then that basically told us like for pandas, anything that's an object is basically just a non-Boolean, non-numerical, a non-date time. So strings, some of these are arrays. So there's like this one, for example, author. I don't know why they did this, but like you can have an author that like they should have just said the name of the author. But they basically have like a list with a dictionary inside. So that told me like this has to be fixed because like we don't need the nested structures. It's just more complicated. And then did some more investigation of like, okay, well, what's inside some of these other columns, like the photo data column? How big is this dictionary, right? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 things in there. Oh, right. I wrote it all down. And then like, what are the types of the things inside and what do we actually need, right? So similarly with the tag category, I was just trying to see if like, are these basically all the same size? And am I going to have to write special logic that's like, okay, this recipe is, say, 7 tags, but the next one has 5, right? Because they had a null and then, or an empty string, and then they just decided not to take it. So, you know, there's a lot of, I felt like I was just doing a lot of data detective work, which I would say is like, the big thing about doing data science is like looking at your data and then figuring out how to clean it so that you can actually do something more interesting with it. And frankly is like why when people are like, do I need a PhD? I'm like, well, not really. You need one to make the recruiters happy, but like this is just like either you get a subject matter expert, which in this case, like I like food, so I guess I'm sort of the SME for this, or you just talk to people to figure out like what are they actually looking for, right? So like that doesn't need a PhD. They just need someone who cares about doing a decent enough job, right? So yeah, like, yeah. Okay, so where were we? We did not run that one, and you can tell because the count of cell execution did not match. So let's run this again. And we can... Okay, so now we're at the somewhat interesting part. So we want to start splitting out... let's go with photo data, because we already specified that last time. So we want to start splitting out this dictionary structure inside. Is that necessary? It will be, but I kind of wonder if we want to do something more fun. Before I started stream, I was like, you know, if I do code, I could extract all those nested structures and then add them to the main column, because that is in the... I will have to do that eventually. Or I could just take the ingredients and just throw them into a count vectorizer and start training something. Let's see. We still don't know. I think I'm gonna do that one. I think I'm gonna start splitting it into an NLP thing. So this looks like a list to me, but it could be... Okay, good. I was a little worried that it was like, it looks like a list, but it's actually just a string, and then this is a character. I was like, okay, that's just gonna be a nightmare. Okay, so this is actually somewhat okay. So we want to... Basically, this means that each record is a document already, and then we have sentences in here because it is a list of individual longer strings, where unfortunately the actual strings are not sentences at all, right? They're just literally like a couple words. So this kind of stuff is part of why, like, I didn't think when I did this project before, I didn't think a very sophisticated, read harder to deploy, and much harder to train thing like deep learning would be helpful here, because like things like I talked about this actually when I talked about approaching natural language processing from like a bottom-up approach. I found a lot of things that like basically defaulted to deploying word to vec, but in this case, like word to vec really benefits a lot from some sort of context in the text. So long sentences and long text, and yeah, long documents. But here it's probably not going to be helpful, because like one of the two architectures in word to vec are skipgram or continuous bag of words. So bag of words basically just means like you just treat each sentence as a literal bag of words. And then skipgram means that you like skip a certain number of words that you decide inside each sentence. So here, yeah, Craig is like, as you're noticing, like there's not really anything, like if you have a skipgram of even just one, you still just end up with the word salt. I know in these stop words, because we showed it last time, like numbers should just be excluded because they don't really help you figure anything out. So in this particular one, we'd end up with pounds, small leaved, bulk spinach. So like there's no verb technically. There's also no object, right? So like, I mean, a thing could get confused and say this is a verb or this is a verb, but like it's not going to happen every other time. So this is, yeah, for sure. I was going to put it into like, I would actually use the lemmas, because like otherwise like we would just generate a separate column for pound, pounds, and leave, leaves, and leaved, which is like not really all that helpful. But yeah, in this context, they're valuable. the sorry, can you feel free? You can feel free to say like in which context which things are valuable. Like the numbers. Well, yes and no. So this particular recommender, it doesn't actually use the. You're actually touching on something I really wanted to do with this. The ingredients don't take into account mass. So for the vectors. So if it were something that's like, yeah, this is 3 pounds of spinach. As a human, I would say that like, okay, well, whatever recipe you're making, maybe it should also have like a similar, not mass, but proportion of like all of like your main ingredient here, which is, this seems like a really weird pesto, like a spinach pesto. Actually, what is this? And we said deck was the title. Spinach alla I can't speak Italian. I was Spanish. That's not right. But yeah, like I really wanted to have something that would kind of like play off of the importance of the ingredients by mass. But then that ended up becoming more complicated than I thought it would be. So like, I think an extreme example would be saffron, right? So with saffron, you don't use like anything, right? Because one, it's supposed to be very flavorful by itself, and then two, it's extremely expensive. So like, you just use enough to like color the water and then color your whatever ingredient. But that meant that, okay, well, actually, now that I think about it, you could, if you're scaling each individual thing, Jewish spinach? Oh, is that, huh? Saffron stonks. Yeah, so like, I guess if we're scaled to give you like an importance vector, then maybe that would be helpful, but I've never used that yet. Let me write that down in the stream notes. That's not stream notes. That's also not stream notes. Okay, I can close that one. That's previous stream notes. Where's current stream notes? Now you can see why I try to take notes on things and like try to keep them more organized, because otherwise. Okay. What the heck? Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. Okay. And then I have a bunch of tabs and documentation open. Well, today I learned. And that is actually for sure going in stream notes. Let's see. So we also talked about Detoured into previous work experience. Medicare. Looking at Mealeon EDA again. Oops. I'm so glad none of you can see all the typos. So yeah, so one, spinaci, al hebraica is Jewish style. It's super cool. Definitely learned something today. Let's see. Is there a way to consider mass balances of individual ingredients and how important those are? Yeah, because herbs in general are really tricky, right? Because like, if you're roasting a chicken and you put a little bit of thyme on the skin, it makes a huge difference. Yeah, so are you talking about basically weighting ingredients based on their importance to the recipe and then modifying them? I'm not sure, right? Because like, as I was thinking out loud about the like, okay, well, what if I standard did a standard scalar or something on each of the ingredients, I think that's not actually the right way to do it either, because like there's going to be recipes where you don't even use that ingredient. So how does that weigh, like literally weigh in terms of like mass importance? So one example is raisins. This is wild, actually. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, it's like pesto, except it has raisins and Jewish style. um, and spinach. I've never seen pesto with spinach in it. But yeah, so like, how many recipes have raisins in them, right? So like if it starts being like, okay, well, this is a recipe that uses a lot more raisins than normal, then it's like, well, what do you do with all the recipes that are 0? So yeah, and like yeah, and like as radar, as you're saying, yeah, it's like how many times is it like, well, you season to taste, so like that you season salt and pepper to taste, like, okay, well, that's already complicated because now you don't even have a mass thing to consider. And same with like, what is a dash of nutmeg, as you can see here. So like I don't know, this is reminding me like honestly, I really love working on this thing because there's like so many nuanced things that are like, oh, this is actually very complicated, right? Because like, what is the right way to address like some of these challenges? Like, and some are even like, yeah, and then the ingredients like we omitted or subbed without a huge difference. Yeah. Like, I remember watching what is the movie with Munich? The movie with Eric Bana, and he's like giving a tour, and his informant is asking for like some ingredient, and Eric Bana's character is like, oh, that's out of season, you can just use shallots. So like that, I don't know, like it's interesting to swap something. But yeah, so now I'm like, okay, how do we balance this? Which I guess like maybe, yeah, this is probably why I ended up using, just for ingredients, just using cosine similarity anyway. I think this is partly I'm thinking a lot now. I remember when I was doing this before, it was like, oh yeah, what is your, I think someone asked me, how do you determine success for this? And I said like, well, I'm not sure what the metric would be, to be completely honest. Like, it's eventually it would get to the point where like this maybe has an unsupervised aspect to it, and I think that was one idea I had. Was like, why don't I just throw the once I've trained them in count vectorizer and stuff, why don't I throw them into latent Dirichlet allocation and see what it is actually extracting out, or tsne if I just want to graph, but like I never remember. Stochastic nearest estimate, I think, is what I don't forget what the T is, but that just makes pretty plots. And then latent Dirichlet LDA is like latent Dirichlet allocation. That one allows you to get topic groupings. And I was like, well, those are both unsupervised. So what is our metrics for success then? But then also, like, if I'm doing cosine similarity on the vectors themselves, then like, to me, a metric would be, is this interesting? So that's like not really a statistic that is inside the data itself. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that was the metric I was going to go with, is like, one, does this seem interesting? And two, would I make it again? Like, or I guess three would be like, does this seem interesting? Did I make it, and then did I like it? So like, those are the things I would consider. But like, that's not really like in the data itself, right? Like, I'd have to make a new thing that basically tracks user behavior. But yeah, and like there's always so I don't know how many people do this with their projects, but like, I felt like there's a lot of I'll tell you what my initial extremely ambitious project for this was, or my idea for this was, I wanted to make a both a recipe recommender, but with a slightly different twist to it. So the idea was it would track a user's made recipe and likes, and then also just say okay, well, you're making something this week or whatever. Do you want to try something new? So then it would kind of randomly pick okay, or it would actually not randomly. It would ask the user if you want to try something new, do you want to try a new technique, a new ingredient, a new cuisine, or a new piece of equipment? And then based off just give them one essentially. And then based off the answer, it would then suggest recipes that would say okay, well, let's say that you make a lot of beef stew, right? So primary ingredients for beef stew are red wine for a braising liquid, or just water, and then obviously beef, and then depending on which cuisine you're looking at, let's say carrots, onions, celery, some herbs. But maybe it's okay, well then, if you want to try something from a different cuisine, turns out beef stew is in a lot of different cuisines, and off the top of my head, you can make one that's Chinese style, or you can make one that has more of a curry base to it, and it just omits the red wine, just uses water. So that is a huge change technically. And then how would you feel about that result? Or if it's a prep step, okay, well, maybe you're used to just chopping, maybe let's up the difficulty and then have you start doing julienne, and then see how you feel about that. And then if it's a difficulty increase, and the other thing was do you want to make something hard? So then it would just kind of gauge well, it would ask you after oh, how did you feel about this? Make it K neighbors approach with both the recipe and also the other uses. Yeah. So all these things were things I wanted to throw in, and then when I was brainstorming this with my coach at Flatiron, he was he had a lot of guarded reactions, and then eventually after a few guarded reactions in a row, I just said, this is too hard, isn't it? He's yes, this is way too hard. You gotta and they're all really cool ideas and stuff, but when you start working on this, you'll realize how hard those things are actually to implement, and then also you'll realize that you only have a couple weeks to do this. And I was okay, cool. So really pared down. So I feel I still have this ideal feature map in my head for where I want this project to go, because it is stuff that I want to see in here, but it is obviously it's really far out there. But yeah, that was why it was cosine similarity, and it's just recipe to recipe instead of throwing in a bunch of other stuff. So now we're on this long path of trying to both improve the cosine similarity from the start, but also if I create this in the past, what I did was I converted each scraped recipe in this database or this data file into the vectors already, and then that essentially trained a count vectorizer pipeline that would then get reapplied anytime there's a new search. So working all this out is still fine. It is going to build all that out, and then should be applicable to other things. So yeah, I'm still pretty excited. Yeah. Okay, so we have this. Yeah, anyway, that was a long-winded thing of oh, these are all the things I want to do, and it's nice that I feel blessed that in chat you guys are actually, or y'all are actually suggesting oh, it would be cool to have this in here. It's yes, it actually would be. So I don't know, it feels nice that I guess other people care about this thing I'm such a huge freaking nerd about. You wrote a package using cosine similarity to help standardize string values before you know about difflib. Oh, that's really cool. Dang. Let's actually look this up for a second. Helpers for computing. Oh, this is built into Python. comparing sequence. Oh, can you read that? Okay. Provides classes and functions for comparing sequences. It's still actually, this is bothering me. That's still a lot of white space. That's like, I love having these ultra wide monitors for things like, now it's fine, right? Like there's space for me, if you want to see me and my long hair, and chat. But also like when it wasn't zoomed in, it's like, oh, there's so much freaking negative space, these wide monitors. You get vendors submitting info about car sales, and they all use different spellings and names for the makes and models because they're probably, yeah. And also like, I don't know, people are in a rush, and I I kind of had a rant on this earlier. Like, I wanted to spoil myself and get a new car because like the car I'm modifying to be an off-roader is my parents' car, but the modifications I wanted to make are like really pretty minor, like modular shelf system. So like if people want to use a regular car, you just take the shelves out and it's just back to normal. The only things that are like maybe semi-permanent, I wanted to lift it and get bigger tires, but like who is going to complain about an SUV being lifted a little bit higher? Like gas mileage would increase, but like it already gets pretty crappy gas mileage. So yeah, and like I don't know, you throw all-terrain tires on something, it's like, are you really gonna complain that like it is safer to drive when the roads are wet or you have to drive through snow? But yeah, and like I wanted to treat myself, so I like went into the Mazda dealership and was like, okay, I'm single, I have no children, and relatively young. I can start my midlife crisis a little early and just drive a Miata until I get into a relationship where I actually need a real car. So my personal car is like a 18-year-old sedan that I'm like, oh, I kind of like, it's having some problems. I love that car, but like maybe it's getting to the point where if I just want a fun car, then maybe I go get a fun car and I have to say, I'm actually, now I'm getting a little emotional thinking about like saying goodbye to my car. But like if I had to say goodbye to my car, I would replace it with something I would really enjoy driving. And I went to the Mazda dealer and I'm talking to the dealer and I'm like, hey, so I want a soft top. I want at least this year, because there's an engine change this year, so I want the newer engine, and I want this trim level, and a stick shift. So like, there's not a lot of options on I wanted a Miata, so like there's not a lot of options on a Miata, right? So it's just like, this is like pretty cut and dry. There's things I can like pull back on, but like the ones I like am very solid on are like soft top, stick shift, and like ideally this trim level, but that's like the mid trim, so anything higher than that should be fine. And he was like, cool, got it, I'll let you know when things come in. And he kept texting me and it was like, do you want a hard top? I'm like, no. Also because the hard tops cost like 20 grand more. And he was like, okay, how about a 2013 with an automatic? And I was like, no, so that's both older than the year I gave you and it's an automatic. And I was like pretty set on like, I would like a stick shift. Like honestly, I've never driven a stick shift car. This would be my first one, but like, I don't know, it seems kind of cool to have your first one be a freaking Miata. But yeah, so like he would keep texting me these things and it was like it was like, okay, how about an automatic soft top? I'm like, dude, stick shift. And how about like this one with like 100,000 miles? And I'm like, no, that is way older than the one I wanted. And then I think a couple times he asked me like, we found like the previous gen one, so not even like the current, like the ND chassis, like an NC or NB. And I was like, the NB is super cool, but also like that car would be older than my current car, and like an NC is the one that I don't want. Like I don't understand why this is so hard. So like I guess I kind of could see that, like, you know, they're always trying to, like, especially now, they're trying to like get all those sales and stuff in, so entering the data is like maybe not their biggest concern. So yeah, I could see how you could end up with a Chevrolet. And it certainly doesn't help when like Toyota has like, oh, maybe it's upcoming, like there's some that are even becoming confusing about the alphanumeric designation for what they have. So like, I thought Toyota's now coming out like a BZQRT or something, and I was like, what the hell is that? And apparently it's like a thing with Subaru. So it's like a Subaru Solterra or a Toyota completely nonsensical arrangement of numbers and letters, and it's just like no one is going to enter that correctly. But yeah, I wasn't going to fault the guy. Eventually I told him like, dude, like, if you I think like the closest he came was like, we got a 1 year older than the model year you asked for, but it is a stick shift and it is a soft top and it is the trim level you want. However, I was working and out of town, and I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna lie, this breaks my heart, because like he told me the miles and what the price they're looking for, and I was like, both of those are actually very reasonable, but like I'm literally not, I mean, like I won't be in town for like a week. And he was like, just so you know, I think he thought I was bluffing, and he was like, you know, if I tell other people that this car is in here, it's probably gonna sell. I'm like, I know, make the sale. Like I'm sorry I won't be there. But yeah, like that, like so much. So yeah, good luck to you, I guess, and congrats for handling all of that stuff. I'm sorry you had to build your own library without knowing that difflib was in here. Sometimes kind of shit happens where you're just like, but yeah, I don't know. Eventually I'll get my Miata. It'll be fine. The only reason why I didn't like buy a new one was because he was like, yeah, we don't have any. I don't know if you knew, but there's a overall parts and car shortage, so I can't even order one for you because the system is disabled. I can try to make a special request, but then you would definitely will not get a car until 2023. And I was like, yes. So yeah, now I'm just repairing my old cars and then trying to get as much enjoyment out of them as possible. Yeah, okay, so let's I think we need to rerun this. Yeah, we need to actually import Spinaci. Oh man, okay. I know it's not really OCD, but I am very annoyed that this whole list, I usually do alphabetical, and it is driving me nuts that this is not alphabetical, so I'm gonna have to fix that. Let's see, so nope. And we are going to actually bring in Spinaci to handle the text pre-processing. Let's see. You're refactoring. Yeah, there were. Oh. I need to share that other link. Let me try to find it. So I found two interesting links. One that I found a while ago and I referenced on stream and I could not find it. I could not find the link and I felt very bad because it was like, okay, this I thought was actually somewhat, like, for a developer I thought was really interesting, and then I just like totally lost track of where exactly I put it. And now I don't know where I put it. Hold on a second. Crap. And so I'll tell you what it was. It was a short blog describing an ideal change to using Git with like data scientists, primarily just describing like this is a Git branch structure that like works for people, as well as suggestions on like how many people you really need to consider adopting this kind of structure. And it's basically the structure I've switched to. And when I read it, I was like, I like this so much that I'm going to switch to it and just kind of force myself to do it this way, even though on these projects I just work by myself. And the idea is like, okay, eventually it may get to the point where I am actually collaborating with people and having this type of structure, and it's already spelled out in a sensical way. Would make it easier to like describe working with other people. Oh my gosh, I can't believe, where did I put it? I'm so sorry. And you can see all these like thumbnails of like where I have way too many tabs open. Oh, okay, phew. It's on betterprogramming.pub. Okay, so I'll put it in chat. And it seems like really simple. And I'll actually just open it here. It just seems really simple, and it's like, oh, well, seeing it typed out, like, it's like, oh, duh, like, that makes sense. But also, like, okay, well, if it makes sense, why don't I do this earlier? So yeah, like, basically, I mean, it's summarized pretty well by just this branching strategy diagram, where you're like, okay, you have main, which you could probably also rename, like, production or something. You basically don't really touch it, and then you just split off into your develop branch, and then you just like do features split off from develop, and then just get merged in, and then eventually when like stuff works enough, you just merge it into main, and then any emergency hotfixes, like those are things you have to work on over here. And like, I don't know, that probably happens all the time. This is probably not like a special strategy, but just like seeing it spelled out and then giving suggestions for what the branches should be named, I thought was like, oh, it's just really nice and handy. And then you don't have to like, if you send this to people, if you like this, and you send it to people and everyone kind of agrees, and like, guess what? You don't have to write your whole process out. So it's just like, okay, well then just use something like this, right? Like this is probably what I would do. I already screwed this up because I thought it was date feature and then name. So like I have date in here, and it's like actually probably really not necessary to do that. But for me, having the date in there also helps me keep track of like, when did I start doing a certain thing? Because like, if I just do feature as a name and then the initials, I have so many different branches that I just don't remember which one is where in terms of like how pulled ahead it is. So that was why I started doing the date. Yeah. Let me see. And then yeah, I think eventually I learned what it means to actually be OCD, and I was like, okay, I'm not. And me being particular about how I want things to look or behave or whatever is definitely not like that. That is just, I think my particularness probably stems from just being a procrastinator. And it's just like, oh, I mean, if it's not going to be this way, then like I'm not going to get started on it right away, right? No, I'm just kidding. But like, I mean, I could kind of see that's like part of it is like, if the work looks hard, then maybe there's always something that tells you that it's, oh, well, what is the thing? What is the edge case I'm worried about before I actually start working? And why don't I fix that first? And like, every time I do that, I'm like, why did you do that? It just makes your life harder. Like earlier today, I was like, oh, okay, well, I can measure some stuff out for the car, but I have to worry about this and this and this and this. And then eventually it was like, Yeah, I didn't have to worry about that at all. And basically, the thing that I thought I was gonna do, like, I kept worrying it would take me like 20 minutes, and it took me about 45 seconds. So yeah. Let's see, Gensym, Corpora, Utils. I'm not even using Gensym because I'm not really a huge fan of it, mostly because it doesn't fit into anything else. Let's see. Don't know if I'm going to use Pretty Print, but Pretty Print is pretty. Lang comes before. Typing MLflow definitely comes before. But we're not using that anyway, so we'll see. Oh. Yeah, Gensym, like, I really like, there's a couple things in Gensym I really like. It was I think it was the OG topic model thing. So it is, I think, still the best one at doing topic modeling if you really want to like make that an important part. I mean, like that is important, right? Like it helps you kind of understand what is going on in your NLP data. But like, I don't like, and I deployed a topic model at work, right? I don't think it's like the be all end all of whatever your project should be, because like it doesn't fully tell you everything about what's going on in your data, in my opinion. Because there's like more stuff you can glean from it. But there's like things in there that are really nice. Like, I mentioned the latent Dirichlet allocation, but there's an algorithm. Yeah, their LDA is like pretty good. They also have the thing I really like is it's another Dirichlet thing, but it's a hierarchical Dirichlet process. And what that does is it doesn't require the number of topics as a hyperparameter before you start the model. So it will actually go determine the ideal number of topics for you based off of, I forgot what the actual calculations were, but it essentially tries to maximize distances between all the things. And no one else has implemented that. It is the only library that has it. Oh, Old Drop, thank you for the follow. Thank you. Feel free to, if you want to lurk, go ahead. I'm curious how you found me. But yeah, so like I was reading like the Spark ML library. One of the primary contributors was talking about like how he really wanted to add hierarchical Dirichlet process into Spark ML, and in the Git discussions and feature requests, like he was basically told like, yeah, no one's gonna use that. And like I think the feature request got deprecated, and it hasn't been updated I think for like 3 years. So like I guess he's right, like no one's really using it. But it was kind of heartbreaking, right? Because like it would have been so handy, because otherwise like you're just like logging a bunch of experiments to do different models all the time. Yeah, I'll drop. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if Nick is still in here, but unfortunately I don't think he's probably not coming back to streaming for a while. But yes, there are not a lot of data scientists on Twitch, and we gotta get more. So yeah, hopefully we I guess we build a crowd or something. I don't know, a quorum. And we can improve our community, I guess. Definitely, I still like seeing all the software and game dev people, just because it is so different. I think partly why I got into data science was like, oh, these code tools are very cool. They just, I like seeing what people make out of the tools more than, I guess, like improving the tools themselves. Let's see. You're not here, just sleeping. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to dox you, but I mean, I know where your employer is, Nick, and I'm like, you need to go to sleep. I guess like same, like I think half the time when Leah streams, I'm like, why are you all awake? And speak of Leah, Yeah, and like the hierarchical Dirichlet, yeah, definitely. Like when I looked at how they described it, I was like, this is super cool. I don't really understand why it hasn't been implemented in other things. Um, um, I think that's the secret. Nobody ever sleeps. There's a oddly wholesome moment at my gym. My like I when I'm at the gym, uh, yeah, um, everyone knows. Okay, so well, yes, East Coast time, and it's like 3:11 there, right? So like, yeah, um, the 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 weirdly wholesome moment I had at the gym was so okay. I was gonna rewind. Normally when I work out, I'm like hyper focused because I don't like the idea of being there for a long time because like I work out to do other things to make other things in my life easier. I don't work out just to work out. So like I enjoy working out because it makes me strong, so I can carry a 40-pound backpack full of camera and camping gear, and it like doesn't bother me as much. Or like today, I carried a freaking sheet of plywood by myself and was just like, oh wow, that's like pretty heavy. um, uh, but what was it? The people at my gym, I started talking to them more because it was like, okay, well, I see you every day I go. And I had to like I changed different branches, so like I see them less often, but it was still like, I feel weird if the only interaction I have with the person is, can I work out in the squat rack while you're on the platform? So like eventually I just started talking to them a little bit more. And like and this is related to the no sleep thing. Um, One guy introduced me to his friends as like, oh, this is Chrono or Aaron. And in real life, people call me Aaron, but whatever. It was like, this is Aaron. He is stupid strong for reasons I can't figure out, and also he told me he can't figure out because he doesn't use a belt, he doesn't use grips, and he's still able to do all the things that he does. And it's super weird. And I was like, oh yeah, also I don't sleep. um, yeah, um, yeah. That especially when streaming, that has weirdly been true. Okay, so we need to load a couple things. So we want to do count vectorizer. So we want the documentation for count vectorizer. Just make sure we've got that correct. The other thing we want to do is we want to look at the documentation for Spinaci. And this is a real edge case that I solved at work, and now I totally don't remember how I solved it. But when I pickle or joblib these things, it will require that I make a class with a custom function that uses the Spinaci lematizer. If I don't do that, it will refuse to pickle and it will error out. And I know this because this happened to me at work. And I don't exactly remember the code I used to fix it. And I could cheat and reload the code just to... That's probably the right way to do it. So like... oh, I'm going to catch up on chat. We are definitely unhinged. 100 unhinged leads. No sleep, extra strong. I guess for reference, like I am 160 pounds. I am trying to get into the 1,000-pound club by the end of the year. So my current ones are, I was squatting 320. I was deadlifting, I think also 320. And my bench is my weakest one, and I was benching 180. So yeah, let's see where we go. I think a couple of people told me like they think at the end of the year I should be doing 4 plates like pretty easy. So 4 plates would be 4 times 40. Oh, sorry, 4 plates on each side. So that's 8 times 45. So that's 360 plus the bar. So that's 405. Yeah, so that is the goal. Hopefully we will get there. Yeah. Uh, um, Aaron is like not impressive. He's much bigger than me. um, yeah, Aaron. Sorry. I was saying that like because Jim came up. I was saying that my goals for the year are to hit the 1,000 pound club, and not for like 1 rep max, for like actually doing a set. Um, or like my normal workout routine. So like I'm currently at 160 pound weight, and squatting 320, deadlifting 320, I think, and then benching 180. But people at my gym were like, "Oh yeah, you should probably, if you keep trying, you'll probably hit 405 for your squat." And I was like, "Okay, cool. I don't know how much I have to eat. I already eat like a lot. I don't really want to keep eating." But yeah, I think the thing with the pickle and job lift was like really pretty annoying, because like this, I actually remember this, like I wanted to lematize with this way, but the thing it doesn't like is like it references the NLP pipeline. It references stuff in Spacey, and it is trying to pickle that, but because it can't call it at the time of pickling, it's like, oh, I can't do that anymore. So I had to like make a brand new pipe, or a brand new class that like specific. I'm gonna cheat because I remember it was so frustrating to deal with, and like I don't know if I really gain anything by trying to like recreate that exact line of code. Oh yeah. That multiprocessing is so weird. It's so weird. And I remember like, because I talked like in multiprocessing, the documentation says like, oh, it by default doesn't just like duplicate the thing you're trying to multiprocess in memory, because it's like it knows not to waste that much memory. And like I remember using it just being like, I don't think that's true. I think this like particular thing is actually duplicating in memory, and that's why it's like crashing my computer. But I don't know. I couldn't control any of that on the back end. So yeah. Let's see. 100. I just thought like 100 unhinged Leahs and 50 peg legs if you keep the pirate thing going. Okay, so let's look at that is in a separate repo. Okay. What are the things we need? We need we need count vectorizer. We also need Spacey documentation. And did I log in a GitHub on this browser? Yes. Okay. So we're loading a private repo from work, and we're just going to look at the code that I wrote, which is probably going to be awful looking, but you know, that's fine. Let's see. This isn't the one. I'm pretty sure it was in the original stack, and I had to fix it. I had to move all the stuff around because MLflow, when I ran out of storage, I tried to move everything into the into AWS, including like all the like metadata and stuff that MLflow generates, and it totally broke. It was like, I don't know where you put anything, even though it was like it's up in this like S3 bucket. And I don't know why, like, why are you asking for the previous experiments if I'm telling you to just run entirely new experiments? And it said, okay, that's not how this works. And I was like, all right, well, cool. All right, this is what I wrote before. Oh yeah, that was why. That was another reason why. So it's not just that it was having trouble pickling stuff. It was also that I wanted to log it in MLflow, So everything was like really, really picky. Um, so I did end up making this custom class that gets imported. Um, and I am just going to reuse it because that trying to remember exactly how I got here is just going to drive me crazy. Okay, so let's see. We are not going to do the fancy way where I clone this repo down because there's like no reason. Because as you can see, it's only 36 lines and some of them aren't even being used, right? So I'm just going to copy it over. And we are going to go to source, NLTK. Oh yeah. I forgot. I used NLTK before. Wow. Okay. Yeah, this is already a huge upgrade. Because NLTK is like cool, but sorry, NLTK is useful. I would not say it's cool. It's definitely an older natural language processing library. And it is very reliable, but it is not speedy, and it's missing a bunch of cool stuff. Like the thing I'm using in Spacey that I really like is like it has this the lemmatization is very powerful and it's fast, but it also has like parts of speech tagging, which I use for filtering because like at work, we had a thing that was like, okay, so Spacey I believe uses a deep net to try to classify all the parts of speech, and I like that a lot because like I think if I used it before doing the lemmatization, it could then tell me when a word was a verb or a noun. So in particular, it was like this particular project was using discussed nursing. So like nurses and nursing staff would come up, or like nursing a wound. So like our subject matter experts for that project were like, you really don't need to tell us about the nurses working in the nursing homes because like we know that these are the people that are primarily interacting with the residents. So having them show up in the reports is like not really all that useful. So I was like, okay, cool. Well then I'll use the parts of speech tagger to like identify when nurse, the lemma for nurse is a noun versus a verb. And then if it's a noun, just like drop it because we don't really care. So yeah, that was LP processor dot pi. The script creates a class with a custom scikit-learn tokenizer using Spacey. The class is necessary to preserve pickling via pickle or joblib, a scikit-learn transformer. So we're not using ML. MVP, just deliver the custom class to use in a pipeline. Feature request, give a log in MLflow. Sorry, this should be MLOps metrics. So could be MLflow, could be the MLOps side of DVC, which is a new thing that I discovered a few streams ago. Definitely haven't copied a class from a newer version of package that didn't exist. That's like I feel like I am borrowing from my own work, so I guess I don't feel as bad. The only thing is like, I think one thing I find very interesting about streaming, like code streaming, is trying to work through the problem publicly, right? So like either that's with chat, acknowledging that they could derail, or just like we're sharing a learning experience together, which I think is very cool. However, I do know and I do remember that as simple as this looks, this drove me crazy for, I want to say, like a few days. And I hated doing that. And I was just like, because it was work, it was like, okay, well then, I think at my worst, I was doing 6 hours of meetings every single day before, and like that meant that like I would sit down at my computer for like 20 or 30 minutes at a time to try to write code. And I think that's probably why this took so long. That's, I mean, a reason. But yeah, like that, it was not great. But let's see. Oh, oh yeah. Okay, so we can even import typing. So list string, and then that might not be right. It might just be stir. So this would actually, yeah, it's just stir. So I don't know. I feel bad if people wanted to actually see the whole like workflow of like, oh, we're trying to like do this thing. Mafo95, thank you for the follow. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, also, if same to you, I offered the same to Old Drop. If you would like to lurk, go ahead. If you feel comfortable, like explaining, I guess, how you found me, and hopefully you're following because you actually like me and not waiting for this proverbial car I'm driving to crash and completely blow up in flames. But yeah. Let's see, you didn't feel badly about it because according to the documentation, it should have been in the version I use. Yeah, like, I actually talked about this at work. Like, I was trying to integrate, like, mix together MLflow with scikit-learn and data version control and a couple other libraries. And I was just like, hey, I don't really know how this works because I've never done this before, and I'm only doing it for that work project because like I know we're supposed to be logging everything, and I just assumed that like the team I was talking to was more experienced, and I was like, I just kind of assumed that like y'all knew what you're doing, and you had advice on this. And and I didn't phrase it that way. I said like, if anyone has advice on this, I'd love to hear it. And I think after 2 or 3 meetings of that, I was just like, maybe I should be more explicit and just actually request help. And I just said like, I actually really could use advice on this, like flat out. And if anyone has like, please people provide me suggestions. And eventually I think like the contractor, their boss was like, honestly, we didn't say anything because we've also never actually done this. Like this is all stuff that's like very new. So like I think one of them said like, I looked at the documentation that you're referencing to try to help you, and it like the exact workflow you're trying to do is like does not exist. Like people have not done this before. And I was like, oh, cool. That's really cool. And basically it was like with MLflow you can make everything go in a project step, like steps. So you can pipeline everything to send it all through. Mafo, found me from software and game development section of Twitch. You're searching for Python. Oh, cool. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. I think Old Drop, I think you're a data scientist and doing ML stuff. I guess Mafo, I'm curious what you're doing with Python, because there's like other people making games and stuff with Python. And Fallout. Thank you. I feel like I feel like I've seen your name before, but I don't know where. But I guess same question to you. I guess how did you find me? And hopefully this is entertaining or at least informative for you or something. But yeah, Mafa, I'm curious what you're working on. And if you are not currently working on stuff, but you're like trying to learn stuff, then that's also totally cool. That is our overall life journey, right? We should always be learning something. Or we don't. Maybe that's not the right way to phrase it, but I don't know. I think life is more fun when we're learning stuff. But yes, welcome in. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So for MLflow, documentation. You can do projects. So when you run projects, you can actually. Yeah, there we go. Building multi-step workflows in MLflow. I'll zoom in a little so it's a little bit easier to see. So you can actually throw all this stuff in here and like, wow, I forgot that they didn't. Here we go. You gotta click in there. there is an example, right? So like, well, it's actually really hard to tell. Yeah, so you basically write this like markdown language-ish thing where you tell it like run all of these scripts in order. So entry point, so not entry points, load raw data, ETL data, ALS, which I forget what that's, I think it's like something least squares, train the Keras model, and then do main. And then like when you read through all of these things, it will tell you what it's actually doing. However, even in here, like in the main, you'll actually see that it's like, oh, I didn't execute this. Like I didn't write this particularly well. So there's like all kinds of things that are in here. Like it actually says to do Aaron, not this Aaron. This is not great because it doesn't count for changes in code or changes in dependent steps. And they haven't updated this in last month. What did they change? Yeah, and like I tried to follow this path, but like one of the weird things I found was like it always generated a new experiment ID, even if I used the same hyperparameters. And that was partly why I kept like, I blew up my storage. Was like, oh, it's just like, it logs every artifact because I asked it to. But now I can't like, I think eventually I was like, right when we stopped using this, I was like, oh, why haven't I been saving these like IDs manually separately? So like the IDs get logged and they're really helpful. It's just that they're always stored in like the MLflow server. And sometimes it would be like, okay, well then some of the steps worked, but some didn't. So like, why don't I just like reference the ID of a working step so that it just knows to go to that thing and then go back? Because I was surprised like it wasn't doing that already. But yeah, and then we got to a point where it's like, okay, to get MLflow to actually work, we need like a major infrastructure change, and there's like no justification for doing that. But yeah, you're trying to learn Python, and you found me from software and game dev. That's cool. You're searching for Python. Cool. Yeah, so for Malfa and Follow, I'm a data scientist, so I'll be completely honest. Like my Python is not like software engineering level Python. You can feel free to look at my leak code or whatever things. I don't even remember what my accounts are, and you'll see that like, yeah, I'm definitely not like one of the better leak coders because like I don't really do that stuff. I like using all the pre-built libraries and stuff so I can actually do what I would consider work and maybe things more interesting. But like, yeah, if I were much better at software engineering, I feel like my deployment of some of this infrastructure would probably go a lot smoother. But yeah, so yeah, hopefully you don't mind seeing that like I'm actually just mostly trying to work with like libraries and stuff so I can actually do machine learning stuff instead. But yeah, that's kind of my approach to stuff. Like I feel like there's a box of tools that has been laid out in front of me, and I'm not trying to like write new tools as much. I try to avoid creating new tools as much as possible. I try to like use the ones that are given to me and then just be like, okay, cool. Let's go build some stuff. I will swear occasionally. I did manage to hold myself back that time. I think my stream is marked 18 up, but sometimes I'm gonna let one fly on accident, and I'm very sorry. But yes, I try to make it so that like even if you're not big on swearing, like maybe you can hang out here still. But yeah. So let me put this example in here. If any of you are curious in trying the MLflow like multi-step workflow, I think it is very cool because it's like it basically lets you just stack all of your code, so you can like agilely develop your code, and then when it's time to run, you run it as a waterfall where you're just like everything go all at once in this order, and then I don't want to think about it. You're brand new, so you don't know too much of this stuff. Everyone starts somewhere, right? That's totally cool. So yeah, welcome. You may find let me think. If you're looking to learn Python straight up, I have been recommending them, but I will say that I haven't really gone through their curriculum. I really thought that like Free Code Camp has very cool curriculum. but it's solely because I looked at their data science curriculum and really liked all the way that they laid out the lessons. I haven't gone through it. I feel like I keep telling myself I should actually go through it because I keep pitching it. Like, hey, like I think this is pretty solid. And then I'm like, I probably shouldn't say that if I've never actually tried to do the lessons. But I do like that the way they try to structure stuff. Partly why I recommend them is I listen to a podcast called, a lot of podcasts, but one is called Software Engineering Daily. And a long time ago, I'm pretty sure it's Software Engineering Daily. Long time ago, they interviewed the founder of Free Code Camp. And the founder's mission is just like really cool. So I was just like, yeah, I mean, I can't, anytime, anything that can help that team succeed, then I think it's just better. I think Free Code Camp, the history is similar to, what's it called? Duolingo, where it was like, oh, like learning a new language and learning how to code, like fundamentally changed how they like were able to live their lives. And they do whatever they can to help people like learn themselves. So like, yeah. And for Mafo, last semester of your master's in economics and finance. Oh, cool. Last semester. Congratulations. Started learning Python a few months ago and you're a beginner. That's cool. Good knowledge of VB and Excel. You're bored by it. As a first project, you developed a little program to automate and calculate ratios from financial statements. That's so cool. That's so cool. So I laugh because that is similar to how my grad school education worked. So for new people, my background is actually in chemical engineering, which is maybe also why I'm not the best software engineer. When I learned coding, I I had like one semester of Java, and then I did stuff in MATLAB. So as an undergraduate, I joined a theoretical modeling group, and we worked in Octave. So that was open source MATLAB because people were tired of paying MathWorks, I believe, the licensing fee. So they just made open source MATLAB. And then I thought I didn't like doing modeling, so I ended up joining like an actual chemistry group for my graduate school. So I got a PhD in chemical engineering as well. And I honestly really hated being in the lab. There was a lot of stuff in that group that was like, not great. But definitely part of it was like, I felt like I was doing a lot of work. Like I would do a week of sample preparation for like 4 samples. And I understand that like that was the work that needed to be done, but that was a week of like, I was just in lab for like most of the day. So actually it was great when I had a subscription to like NHL Game Center back then. And I would literally like wake up, go to class, come back for dinner, then go back to lab and just watch hockey while doing experiments. And that was great. Or analyzing data. I watched so much hockey. It was awesome. But one of the things that I did to try to speed up our workflow or in our analysis was you work in a cement. Holy crap. That sounds extremely difficult. But like one of the things I did was to try to speed up our analysis, because before I joined, we were doing everything in Excel and also doing everything manually. And before I joined, like people were writing formulas in cells from CSVs and then doing like click and drag to apply them. And I thought that was extremely tedious and annoying. So I ended up writing like some Excel VBA macros that like did all that shit by clicking a button, and it did it for like thousands of rows, and then it would also generate like visuals for us, and I was like, cool. So like all this stuff that took me like 3 days before, I had to dedicate like a couple weeks to doing this, but like now it does it in like 20 minutes. So yeah, is that true? 3 days, 20 minutes? Yes, that is true. Yeah. Just me in one tiny office where I literally didn't have AC. So like in the summer, my office was the only one that would hit like 85 degrees. And I would just sit there and just like yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. So I just made that Excel macro, and then it worked beautifully. And then I tried to actually start doing like computer vision and soft matter stuff. So like trying to actually have some computer recognize the particles I was clicking pixel by pixel. But that didn't finish in time. So also I was told that that's not quote real work, and I was gonna get fired if I kept doing that. So I was like, cool. All right. But yeah, Fallout. I think right now you might win for hardest job. At least that I know of, because like I don't think I could work in a cement plant. Well, I guess if you're in the lab, well, it's still hard. So I mean, I did an internship for Procter and Gamble, or several internships for Procter and Gamble, and like I know the quality assurance lab was like really busy because they'd keep doing samples to make sure everything, like all of your Bounty and Charmin and stuff, like what was up to spec. But like cement plant sounds like a whole new different thing. I think the hardest plant I worked at was like the plant that worked at or that made Cascade powder, and like it was weird because like that was actually, I think that was the plant that made me decide to wear a mask like nonstop when I was at work, because like it's like soap particles, right? It's like a soap dry powder, detergent dry powder, and the fines would get everywhere. And I didn't realize that until like one day I went to wash my hands, and I thought my hands were covered in soap, and then water like splashed up on my forearm and stuff, and it got slick. I was like, interesting. And I started just like washing like literally everything, and everything was like covered in soap, even though I didn't put stuff on. But it still felt, once I got my like other parts of my arm like wet, I was like, there's like nonstop soap. And then one of the techs came over and it was like, yeah, you're gonna learn when you're working here that like you're gonna have to like shower and stuff with soap, extra soap, like because like there's so much detergent on you that like it is basically just competing with itself, so it won't form the micelle to like come off of your body, so you have to like apply soap to get rid of soap that's on you. And I was like, oh shit, we're just like breathing this stuff in like all the time. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. What about this room? And he's like, this room is filtered. I'm like, all right. Yeah, so I don't cement plant sounds super hot. That doesn't sound comfortable. But yeah, okay, so I sent this in documentation in the chat, right? Yeah, okay, so let me put this in stream notes too, like we just demonstrated. What did we do? We talked about needing a custom class for pickling. Does anyone know what's called pickling? And joblib. Decided to reuse a class I wrote before for work project. Also showed MLflow. What's it called? Multi-step workflow? Yeah. MLflow multi-step workflow. And copy that over. Oh, right. Pickling and custom classes. Okay, so oh man, this is gonna drive me crazy. The exact reasons explaining why you have to pickle, pickling and user-defined classes. I wrote them in our work documentation, which I 100% do not have access to anymore. Um, I was like, oh, it'd be actually really nice to put in the stream notes, like, why do we have to do the class? So let's say pickle. I think I found it by the error was like pickle count vectorizer. Custom processor tokenizer. Yeah, this looks like it. Something like this. You have to add the method to tokenize things in the same code that is loading the pickled object. Import the term extractor and create an extractor. So this is why, like, it can't, because it is referencing Spinaci, like a class in Spinaci, it can't go grab that pickled object from importing Spinaci for, I don't know why. So like that was why it was like, oh, I have to write a custom class and then import it this way. And then when I write the custom class, I can save it as a local file, and then it just like takes it. So I think this is part of the answer. So let's keep this one as one of them. Oh, catch up on chat. It's hot, some of it's hard work. But in the lab it isn't too bad. You just have to go out and plant every once in a while to go get samples and go back to lab and run the samples. Then when I have downtime, you sit back and watch YouTube. That is pretty nice. The only time it gets bad is when you have to change the cement mix or you have high free lime. I feel like we're about to go get a... I have questions now, but I'm like, are we about to get a free chemistry lesson about like how cement actually works? Which you're not obligated to give us via chat, but if you have resources on that that you can share, because I know like it is work knowledge, then like honestly, I would love to hear it because I'm a nerd and I love these things. I listened to, there's an episode of an old podcast called Surprisingly Awesome. And they talk about like the history of cement, and I sent it to someone, or history of concrete, I think. And I sent it to someone else because I remember like when I listened to it, I was like, this is so cool. And like, I don't know, I could always use a refresher on that. And like, I don't know, maybe things have changed. I think like one of the things for work, for my PhD was like, I was working on graphene. And people were using graphene in concrete mixes as ways to like strengthen it, reinforce it. And there's like a whole thing on like how it's going to solve a bunch of concrete problems, et cetera, especially with like, you don't have to use rebar and blah, 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 blah. And then it turned out that was like really not true. And like a good portion of my dissertation was basically spent like debunking a bunch of stuff that came out of graphene research and just being like, everyone calm down. Yes, this material is awesome, but are you actually using the material that you think you're using? You're totally more than welcome to go read my dissertation if you really want to. Slightly doxing myself, but whatever. Wait, why am I worried about that? It's in my freaking hub page, right? Like my name and stuff. Here you go. So it's like clearly not a doxing myself. I mean it is, but also it's like not a big deal. But yes, Fallout. If you do find stuff that you're like, oh yeah, other people can read this too, then like yeah, feel free to whisper it to me. If it can't get sent in chat. Let's see. And then if you send it to me, also tell me if you're okay with me putting it in stream notes. So I showed it before, but I keep notes on stream as best as I can. And then I publish them on my blog, so if people want to read about them, they can catch up. or they can even just check out a bunch of the stuff that we talked about. So like last time I actually said like, oh yeah, these are people that like actually talked in chat and they're very active. So like shout them out because they were streamers. Yeah. Um, so Mafo, you saw my stream when I set up my new laptop. Why don't you use Winget to install my programs? It's really tenacious to download the programs from the website. So yeah. So that's a good question. I didn't use Winget because I've never used Winget before actually. Let me see. Winget. That's not it. Oh wait, yeah it is. Use the Winget tool to install and manage. Oh, is this the new one? Oh yeah. So I've heard about this. I thought it was either this or Chocolatey, right, for Windows users. I think Winget was like, I don't know why Microsoft did this. Like they're open sourcing Winget. So as much as I love Windows Subsystem for Linux and stuff, this was very confusing to me. Like they introduced a new open source tool for app deployment when like Chocolatey already existed. If you know what the exact differences and stuff are, like feel free to tell me. But like in my opinion, it would have been better if they were just like they just gave Chocolatey more blessing and then helped them like actually get stuff working. I think when I first heard about Winget, the thing that was crazy was like I wanted to use it. There wasn't a lot of stuff in the Winget like store, and like it just like was not really tenable to do that. And then also like for some strange reason they didn't introduce the ability to uninstall things. So if you installed a version that like wasn't compatible with stuff, you couldn't uninstall it. You had to like manually go do it. There's no Winget command for it. And like I'm aware that they've made a lot of changes because like I keep seeing the updates on it, but I'm like, all right, well now I'm like set in my ways of like doing all this other stuff, including like it's kind of confusing when they have Winget for the command line, but they also like tell you to just get stuff in the store. So I don't know. Like, I'm sorry if it feels like I'm like crapping on your suggestion of using Winget, but these are basically reasons why I didn't use it. It was like, oh, but all these other things existed already, and I just didn't understand the advantage, I guess, to using Winget. If it is actually much better, definitely please send me something to put in the stream notes and stuff and for me to read, because it like I think you missed this part, but like I used to have a Mac, and I think the best thing for dev on Mac is Brew and Homebrew. And like I remember when I started working on stuff, it was like, why isn't there a thing that's like Brew but for PC? And like the other thing I thought was like, I love how Apple users like claim credit for Brew as like one of the reasons why macOS is better, and it's like, okay, but this isn't actually made by Apple. I'm pretty sure, right? Like Homebrew. I'm very certain that this is not an Apple product. But yeah, yes. If you can send me things on like I guess how to use Winget and how to get it deployed, like or like what you like about it, feel free to tell me. They're audited from Microsoft and they make it. Oh, so it's like, is it basically like a CLI version of the store then? Oh, that actually is pretty cool. So one of the things I think is confusing about the store is you couldn't get. I thought it was like you could only get things that were cross-platform in terms of architecture in the store, and they had to be vetted. But like the thing that was confusing me was like, why isn't Visual Studio Code in the Windows Store? Like it's and it's a Microsoft product that is amazing, and it's not in the store because I guess it is not compatible with ARM at the time. But I think even now it's still not, may not be in the store. But like this command, show command winget, like you can see that they're actually showing Visual Studio Code. So it is a way to install VS Code without having to go to the website and download all the stuff. But because I definitely agree, like it is very annoying, and it is a possible security concern, right? Because like if you misremember a link, or you're tired or not really paying attention to the thing you click, maybe you don't actually click the thing that you thought you were going to install. So like that was one of the things with Brew, was like it should be a lot safer because all the packages are vetted by the community, I believe. Turns out this may not actually be entirely true with Brew. I thought they had some security problems just like Docker did last year. But yeah, so that is super. That is going in stream notes. So thank you, Malfo. Man. If you're using PC, try Winget. I do really hope that it is better than before. But I guess like, okay, so why I think this is also cool is like technically, if because it's command line, I would imagine that you could actually group a bunch of things into a script and then execute the script. And then therefore you don't have to go to like, when I got stuff working here, it was like, okay, go install WSL, update all the stuff for WSL, install terminal, install power toys. Like actually you can see in here. But like, yeah, and then this is a script, right? Like you can just batch all this stuff together. So it's like, okay, we'll just install all this stuff. And then like, that is so much better. With Winget, you can extract a JSON list with all your, oh man, this is so much better. Son of a okay, yeah, this is going in stream notes. Thank you so much, Mafo. This is helpful. Well, maybe too late for me, but next time. I guess, you know what? There probably will be a next time, because that new laptop I got, I do not really enjoy that keyboard. So it is possible that I will return that laptop and get a different one, unfortunately. Use Winget to install Windows software. It's like Brew. Yeah, definitely appreciate it. Okay, so, and then for this one, oh my gosh, it's one. Man, this sucks. I feel like it just started getting good. I don't like, no, I should actually go to sleep. So yeah, we can really quickly go over the thing I really wanted to do, right? So if you've never used Count Vectorizer, what it does is it will zoom in, or else it gets the hose again. It will zoom in. I actually didn't mean to say it that time. It will take your collection of text documents and then basically just convert them into your token counts. And this is really useful. It is a feed into... I don't know if you heard that. So this is tangential. But so for those of you who are new, I live in the SF Bay Area. There's a lot to love in the SF Bay Area. There's also a lot that I really don't like here. So cost of living is extremely high. Traffic is awful because our drivers are terrible. And drivers being terrible might be because the infrastructure is bad in terms of like overall design. I don't know why we have so many of the four-leaf clover type of highway mergers. They're very dangerous. And drivers here just don't seem to give a shit. So like, or they just have like I really wanted to make this a meme, but you know, from Parks and Rec, when Ron, they're having like a party or something, and then the park ranger's like, hey, do you have like permit or anything? And Ron's like, yeah, it's right here. And he takes out a piece of paper and it just says like, I can do whatever I want. I really feel like that's what California drivers think a driver's license is. I have seen so many people turn left on red here that it's mind-boggling. But like, the side rant I have now is like, we have a shocking number of assholes who think that it's like totally cool to like drag race and do donuts and stuff at like 1:30 or 2 in residential neighborhoods, and I just don't get it. It's like, I don't know, the previous place I lived, like, I don't know what was one of my neighbors, I think he got in trouble with our housing association because like sometimes he would just go on drives at 3 a.m. and the asshole had a charger and he would like go 0 to 100 on our street at 3 in the morning, which also meant that like he would set off our car alarms in our parking garage and also just wake people up because his car was so loud. And yeah, like there's so many people like that here, and it's just like, I just don't get it. Like, what do you win from doing that? But yeah, okay, yeah, side rant. All because I heard someone start up their car and rev it to like 7k RPM for, it's 1 a.m. Yeah. Okay, so if you've never used Count Vectorizer, or read documentation, don't worry too much about it. Basically, it's just telling you like, okay, these are the things I would import. It's like from sklearn.feature_extraction.text import count vectorizer. And it's looking for stuff, right? So your inputs are going to be some type of content. Usually, like they just tell you what all the options are. But you can actually start feeding in, like, these are your various arguments. You can start feeding in things if you really want scikit-learn to handle it. So you can strip all the accents, for example, if you've got, I think it's ASCII text. Yeah, well, doesn't matter. And you can, like, have it do a lot of your text pre-processing, so make everything lowercase, add some sort of, like... This is where maybe the documentation is a little confusing, because like it's telling you to go consider in these steps. So strip accents, lowercase preprocessor, but it does also say like, well, if you add a custom preprocessor, you can override the previous things. And then same with like this this tokenizer. For example, like I think I've made it so that like I included the tokenizer. When I imported a custom tokenizer, I did all the pre-processing via the tokenizer, the custom one. So like I just didn't use any of these things before, which is like, I don't know if that's probably not the right way to do it, but like I like the way Spinaci makes a bunch of these things. Sorry, I just lost the documentation. There we go. So like, I don't think I really enjoyed trying to use regex to do all the tokenization. I just think I thought it was easier to do something else. But yeah, the goal was to basically, or the ideal goal was to get to the point where we're importing text into Spinaci. So we'll show some documentation for that. Actually, another thing about Spinaci, their class where they walk through how to use it, I think it's Spinaci 101. It's actually really good. So it's very simple. It explains everything you need to do, and then it explains all of their stuff inside in pretty clear terms, in my opinion. So if you don't get it, then it's totally fine. I could be misremembering these things. I'm guessing 1AM me is going to look at me like, I don't really understand this. But like I like that like you can like puzzle piece mash together the things you're actually trying to use here. So let me put this in stream notes, and also I'll just put it in chat. Stream notes. So yeah, I don't know. I really liked it, and then like every time, because like I'm not some magician in terms of like what my memory is weird, so I'll remember extremely random things, but like for especially for complicated stuff, I'm not gonna remember every single detail. So sometimes I think it's just easier to just like look at at the documentation and an example and just be like, oh yeah, okay, now I remember this. Or sometimes like I in using poetry and Spacey, I've definitely run into cases where like a version change caused some code to break, and then I had to like reteach myself how to use something. So like, if someone wants to call me out for that, then like go ahead. But like, I mean, I had a job to do. So like, if the answer was run the new version of the tutorial to understand what's different, then like, okay, cool. Make fun of me for it. I really don't care. But yeah, for regex, it's like super powerful, but also like I can't do any regex without I think it's this one. Yeah, I can't do any regex without something like this. I might have even put it in the, I think it's like permanently in my template in case I ever have to do regex stuff. Yeah. Right here. Yeah. So like, especially what is the, I think I have a regex function in here. It's not in this one. Dang. Yeah, like you're telling me you're gonna remember everything on like how to do this, you know? That's like okay. Yeah, like I think like one time I was talking to my brother about regex stuff, and he gave me this like it was a joke. It was like some meme, and then he gave like an example of like a regex expression, and I was like, yeah, I mean like that's just garbage regex, and I didn't mean it as like it won't work. I mean like I know it's going to work. I just, as a human being, to look at that and be like, oh, I get it. Like I get exactly what it's going to search for, and like you understand that like less than a second. It's like that's very impressive, but like not a thing that I would ever remember. I think I remember now. It's in the old code. It's not that one. There is, man, every time I see this, I'm like, this code freaking sucks. Where I do a TF, yeah, there you go. Okay, token pattern is a regex expression. I don't remember what this means. Like I remember parts of this. But like here's what I remember. All right, this section means only include the things that are 2 characters or more. With it's unbounded. That's all I remember from this one. I believe this section is only give me the things that are letters, because I did not want to get things like 10 milligrams, right? Because this is processing the oh yeah, sure, sorry. I was like, I think this is like kind of small. I'm a little spoiled for the last like year or two. So this is actually pretty funny. At work, they were offering us monitors and stuff. Can you see this now? This? Yeah. So at work, or at Medicare, they were offering us monitors and stuff. And one day I was like kind of bored. And I was like, okay, well, what is the stuff that they can give us? And I logged in and I was like, oh, that's weird. Like normally they only give us like 21-inch like full HD monitors. But there's one here that's like, it's listed as a 32-inch 4K monitor. And I was like, well, I mean, I want that. I've never had a 4K monitor. I don't know what this looks like. So I asked my boss, would it be okay if I requested this? And I put in a request. She said yes, and then I put in a request with IT. It was a whole process, et cetera, et cetera. And then they overnighted a 32-inch 4K monitor to me, and I set it up, and I told my teammates, I was like, "This thing is awesome." Even if you if you're just looking at text, right? Like if you zoom in and stuff, it doesn't get all grainy at the edges. It looks beautiful, and it just made things like a lot easier to read. So I told my teammates, and then they went through the exact same process to request things, and all of them got rejected. And I was like, why? I literally forwarded you my request that those people approved. What was the reason that they rejected you? And they said, like, developers have not justified the use of 4K monitors. And I was like, the fuck are they talking about? They literally approved this like 5 days ago. And then everyone else like gave up. So like, as far as I knew, I was the only one, like the only Medicare employee who had a 32-inch 4K monitor. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna really enjoy this. But obviously I had to send it back. So currently the monitor that you're looking at code on now is one I purchased for myself, because it has an extremely wide color gamut, and I wanted something for photography. But it is also 4K, and my eyes still work decently enough, so like I can read it at the like I can read it at that on my like on the monitor itself. But I should have remembered that like it shows up like crap because like the monitor, like the stream will down res it to 1080p or whatever anyway. But yes, so like I a whole huge tangent. I really don't understand what this means. Like let's try to put this in regex 101. Insert your regular expression here. So if we do the translation, so it's going to be match everything no, it's capture everything enclosed. What is U? U's not in here. Okay, Unicode. Match everything enclosed in Unicode, I think. Incomplete group structure. Meta escape. What the how did... Okay, so I know the only reason why I ended up with this was because I put text in here that I was like, okay, let me see what I want to filter, and then I had some help, and then that was it. And then like I just looked at it and saw what it highlighted. So like obviously I'm not gonna know how to do regex stuff. But yeah, yeah, this one is and it's even giving me a pattern error. Like what did I do wrong? Was I supposed to include it in a string? Can I remember the versions of Python that's useful to have installed in dev environment? Yeah. Don't do 3.6 because it overall has just dropped support. So do 3.8. If you want the newest, coolest stuff, do 3.10. But if you want the one with the broadest support, do 3.8. And like 3.6 introduced a bunch of really cool features. So like in this, for example, like see this section here, and then technically it's going to return an arbitrary class. So that would be wait, it's not a function. That's just the init. So I don't know what that would technically return. But like this is a good example, right? So Python introduced static typing hints in version 3.6, and it got better, I think, over time. I think 3.8 might be the one that lets you actually just like import and export like arbitrary classes, so like a pandas data framer, for example, or like as long as you specify what it is. So like, yeah, what that allows is like, so Python normally does not care what you feed as a variable name, essentially, because it's just whatever. But this can lead to problems if you say, if I fed this in as a list, right, instead of a string, then it would give me an error. It's like unsupported type, something like, I don't know what the exact error would be, but it wouldn't work because it's like really needing a string to work. So these static types are brought in as a way to just like help with your testing and help with your code legibility, essentially, because like what this is saying is, as an argument, well, let's go to this one, right? What this is saying is, as an argument, I am expecting a string that is supposed to represent your report text. When I am done, I will give you back a list. And like, you have to write this to make it clear, but I think it's overall worth it because like it does make things a lot easier to understand. So think about your friends and your coworkers who are going to be looking at your code, and maybe they're not in the same time zone. Maybe they, the example I was given was like, you could have a team working in like India, and when you go to sleep, they are just starting to work and they may not be able to figure out your code. Or the worst example is, maybe you don't work on the project for a little bit and you come back weeks later. Do you remember everything that you stopped working on? Probably not. So be kind to basically yourself in the future. And like, if you do this kind of stuff where you do static typing, and then I should also say, once you put this in, like you say, I'm going to give you a string, I think you actually have to say what you want back as a result, because otherwise it'll just say like, I can't do this. So yeah, if you start doing stuff like this, like it does just overall just make things a lot easier to understand. I used some code where this kind of stuff didn't happen, and then when I like really read through their code, what I ended up discovering was like, they essentially rewrote count vectorizer for themselves, and I was like, why? And then like they rewrote it for themselves and then fed it into a TensorFlow structure, and like it didn't make any sense to me, because it's like essentially like, why are you rewriting NumPy, right? Yeah, so like I would say 3.8 is your safest bet if you want to like start using other libraries. If you're doing stuff all by yourself, then you can do 3.10. Yeah, they are usually compatible going forward, but not going backwards. I think that's how it works. Yeah, and Python, I don't believe, has had the same problem that R has had. R somewhat recently, like they had to redo how they calculated random things. So there's like a new version of R that like, you wouldn't be able to recreate your old data once you updated your R version. And it was like somewhat controversial, but the hosts of Not So Standard Deviations, which let's link them because they're great. If you want to hear like data science people talk about statistics and stuff, I enjoyed this podcast. My former coworker told me about these two. One is a professor at Johns Hopkins, and the other, Hillary, I think she just started her own thing, but she actually used to work for Stitch Fix, and then became data scientist for the Biden campaign, which was like, I don't really care about people's politics and stuff, but I do think it's really cool to do politics on something that is like such a niche project, right? Like, I think that team only runs for like at most like a couple, like 2 years, right? So I think she worked there for like a year, and her description of it was like, it really felt like a sports team, because like you have experts who've basically been there, like the veterans who've been there over and over and over again, like these kinds of like campaigns. And then everyone comes in, like they have a very specific task, and it's like a lot of really hard work for a pretty short amount of time. And then everyone just kind of goes and does their own thing again. And there's no, like, we don't know when this next thing is going to happen. Because like I guess teams like could just do the presidential campaigns, and then other teams could do this sort of thing every year. So it was really cool to hear about, just because like I've never really seen this before. But this podcast is very cool. They talked about like the effects that like Roger was saying, like, oh yeah, like the new random calculator is better. Like, as much as it sucks that it breaks code, like it is ultimately better. And what was the other stuff they talk about? I would like to catch up because they talk about the new M1 architecture for Macs, and how like there was concern that it was breaking numerical calculations. I think when the M1 originally came out, there was a major problem in that, like, for some reason, if you tried to do pandas or NumPy, it would call a library, but that library didn't exist, so it used a version that Apple provided, and then the one that Apple provided dropped nulls without any sort of debate. So like you could end up throwing out a bunch of your data. I think was what people said the problem was. So like a couple people scrambled to try to find a new calculator. I'm not sure if it's working, but yeah, there's like concern. But yes, I strongly vouch for this podcast. They talk about like a lot of really cool stuff. And like, I'm not saying that they're right. I'm saying that, I mean, I do vibe with them, I guess. One of the things that they talk about, and I'll spoil some episodes, like Hillary left Stitch Fix a while ago because she said one of the problems was that the data scientists and the subject matter experts didn't always see eye to eye. And ultimately, her belief was that the subject matter experts were the right ones. So the example she gave was like, Stitch Fix works in fashion. So part of the thing with fashion is that you're going to suggest a lot of things that are wrong or that people may not like, and that may change over time. However, data scientists excel at deploying models that tell you what succeeded in the past. And she said, like, the problem that they're having was that it felt like they were going to deploy a bunch of things that would ultimately basically just suggest that everyone just wear gray sweatpants all the time. And like, that doesn't make for good fashion, right? Because it is just the same, and it's more the same all the time. So I felt like that was actually very insightful, and like a good point of vulnerability for, like, her job was data scientist. That was her title. And for her to say, like, no, our job is to like help like the actual like subject matter experts like do their jobs better, essentially. I thought that was very cool, and that's like something I definitely agree with. I think data scientists function best as force multipliers. So like we can help people like gain insights from their data, make reasonable choices and stuff, but like I don't think that what would I say? I think not considering the advice or knowledge of someone who's been there before, but on a smaller scale in terms of the data, is not a good approach, right? So like for food, I really like food and spend a lot of time looking up food and different cuisines, but and that helps me kind of figure out like where some of the dishes fall and like how to cook certain things, and like it might also give me an idea of like one of the things when I was talking about like assigning a difficulty, like a really easy thing, or I guess a really easy idea I had to try to discern difficulty levels, which is not a thing that's like actually written in a bunch of these data sets, is I was going to say like, well, let's use verbs, right? So like mince is going to be harder than chop because mince just takes a lot longer to do, and you're just going to be sitting there longer. And then if your knives and shit aren't sharp, then like you just made your life a lot way worse, right? But something that you could do to even up the difficulty even more is like whenever you see like a French verb, then I would say that the difficulty gets higher, because like it like, one, it's a little bit like raise your nose when you talk about stuff like, okay, well, you can julienne it, but like, what does that actually mean, right? Like, well, that's making, if I'm remembering correctly, because now it's late, oop, I think it's matchsticks. Yeah, cutting vegetables into thin strips, right? So like, if someone had to explain like, oh, you do this technique, then like, okay, well, one, that's already harder, right? Because it's going to take extra time. Excuse me. And like, you may, why would you get a peeler? I guess it saves time, but like, just the idea that like you're gonna cut finer and finer pieces, it's just like, that requires like a level of technical, like technical experience and expertise. Is just like makes this harder. You have to do more focus. Ideally, you get all this stuff cut to the same size, etc., etc. So yeah, or like, yeah, yeah, you heard food. So yeah, I really like when data scientists like actually work with their subject matter experts and like try to balance like deploying a fun model and like actually working on the information. All right, so it is, I just realized it's 1:30. I've been streaming for almost 3.5 hours, definitely over 3 hours, and I have not taken a break yet. But because it's also 1:30, I think that means like I should probably just stop. So okay, let me put in the stream notes. Not so standard deviations, which I believe is also in the helpful educational resources. So hopefully, if it's not, it should be, because I think they're really cool to learn from. So save that draft, and let's commit stuff. I know that technically Git has not Git, Visual Studio Code, I can do the terminal in there, but like I never start Visual Studio Code from, like, I always start it from terminal. So like I just have the window open still. So yeah, so what's our Git status? It should just be the notebook. Yeah. Oh, right, we added a new script. That's right. So yeah, let's add these in here. Exploratory, and that's gonna be 2022. And then we'll also add the SRC NLP processor. So git status, so git commit, and then we're gonna jump back into Visual Studio Code. So what did we do today? Okay, so we streamed and we did re-explaining, which is okay. Re-explained EDA, added custom tokenizer class, custom Spinaci tokenizer. Okay, so reran EDA cells from last time, explained new features to add going forward. So we are going to add Spinaci, count scikit-learn, count vectorizer, and then that also kind of implies TF-IDF transformer. That is going to be formatted better if we do it this way. Let's see. Oh. Probably TF-IDF transformer, but definitely latent Dirichlet allocation. And we want to visualize it too, right? So why don't we throw in some sort of, oh, well, we can do Gensim. Gensim, hierarchical Dirichlet process. Because I think tsne, I think, is built into visualization. I forgot how to spell visualization. There we go. Let's see. Imported custom Spinaci tokenizer from previous project. Need the tokenizer because of pickling job-lib requirements. Requirements. See stream notes at, well, it won't be ready, but BuenosDS.dev. I don't think it has 3 dashes. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Okay, cool. When ready. Okay, so save the commit, close out the window. This is done. So git push origin is 2022-05-19. It's getting sent up. I'll do a pull request later. Let us look for a person to raid. This is the worst part because it is so late and there's not a whole lot of software and game dev people. Oh, okay. There's actually a person that I keep wanting to check out. They're working in, unless chat, if you have people you would like to see. But there is a person that I've like actually followed, but then like never rated them, and I just kept forgetting to rate them. So there is a person that's like porting stuff to Android currently, but they're doing C++. Hey, Elias. Oh man, this is bad timing. I'm just about to go. Intelligence is on right now. Also, is it IntelliHens or IntelliGens? Because I came in one day and everyone was like, I have no idea what was happening. I think I've, let me see. Man, I didn't realize Intelligence has been streaming longer than I have tonight, and his title is Quick Stream, so I am super worried. I feel like whenever I do Quick Stream and it runs for like over an hour and a half, I'm like, uh-oh. Let's see. Why don't we... let's rate Intelligence, because I'm just realizing I don't follow them right now, and I've never actually seen a stream. All right. So command is set up. You did it as a joke, but it hasn't said anything about stopping soon. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, Elias, that's a little bit bad timing. You popped in or said hello like right when I was like, oh, I need to go to bed. It's 1:30. I keep saying I will go to bed earlier, and this is technically true. I am not going to bed at 2:30, or I'm not ending stream at 2:30. So that is an accomplishment. But yes, thank all of you for coming in today, or tonight, or I guess today, wherever you are. It was really nice to see all of you, especially new people. So yeah, um, I'd love to see you all around, I guess. I still don't really know what to say with these sign-offs. Yeah. You can probably tell I'm still not the most whatever streamer, not the best streamer. But that's okay. Everything is learning. I have like a lot of notes to try to be better anyway. But yes. Okay, so we're going to raid intelligence, and then I will check in on. Don't know if, let's see. I should be able to stream tomorrow. So yeah, yeah. All right. Good night, everyone. Bye. Bye. Thank you, Fallout. All right. Good night. Bye.
In audio. That was my husky saying I love you. Thanks for the follow. Thanks for the follow, Kronos. Hey, welcome to the chat, Leo T Codes and Aurora Fox and Aaron. Are y'all coming with the stream? First time checkers, thank you very much. We're just busting out some Bieber over here. We're just vibing to Bieber. Hope you don't mind. I feel very special. All three of my mods are here supporting me for my super stream. We started out with a code. I kept seeing your name in Telehens, and I realized I hadn't followed you. You're streaming, so I figured I'd stream. Oh my god. This beautiful voice woke me up. Look at this. Look at this. Hey, thanks for coming in with the raid there, Radar. R4D4. Yeah, they'll ban your ass in a heartbeat, for sure. But you know, Chrono Zero's got some pretty nice keyboards, so I think he gets the pass. Oh shit, CMK man, you should not be here. You're too elitist for this stream here. We don't have much going on. Yeah. So anyways, earlier before we started coding, we were working on some Photoshop doodles. Let me know if you'd like to see them, but otherwise I'll just keep Mus and mess around with this view. No. I think the readers are scared. Okay, so I moved my... Oh, here. It's because I didn't... I was like, I moved all my shit to that guy, and it's not showing up. I think it's because I'm not calling it. So, I think this is gonna work now. Let's see. Shout out to Halsey. The song was dope as fuck. Okay, here we go. I don't think the queue's gonna work though. See, for some reason the queue's not working, but it does work on the rollovers and the copy changes. Gremlin cookies were after dark, after night.